saltwater
guarantee
fishing
you
license.
that.
When the saltwater fishing license came in, I was going, "You're kidding me! They can't make you get a license for saltwater fishing." Oh, they do.
Yes, they do.
I still get people that say, "I got to get a license."
And the answer is probably no. But if somebody individuals practical things, probably trying to put in a program to where you want to have you would handle that administratively.
Is this not?
However, the fiscal committee would like to see that every mile we drive in OHRV, we've allocated that mile somewhere, some cost.
Oh, it says no.
They decided to declare war on dedicated funds.
Dedicated funds.
Make it disappear.
Yeah, that has been a trend to, with all the,
Yes, well, what they forget about that is that that's the source of the match for federal grants. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
so it's 75, 25.
So they're shooting themselves in the
You're right,
foot.
exactly.
They're
Somebody-
not just shooting them in the foot, but
That's the second one I've
basically
seen.
hacking the foot off.
Money goes, can't use the money.
Wow.
And the dedicated funds are fees. They're fees and all
They're
that
fee
things. It's not a tax. It's not the tax that you think of in terms of. It's the fee that you pay to use these licenses and these services. And they want to get rid of those funds. So it doesn't change your tax situation.
Yeah.
It just eliminates money coming into the state.
Yeah. Wow.
Funny story, the wife was hauling me to let the cat out.
We're not,
Yes.
That bobcat I showed you, the wife was hauling me to start the cat out. I go, nah, it's a little too big.
Yeah, I saw that one last Thursday night when she was showing it.
Was it the, oh, okay, yeah. That's the second one. The first one I sat there and go, that's cool. And the phone's sitting in my pocket. That was cool.
okay, I think it's close enough to 7 o'clock, July 27th. I'll bring the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order, starting with a roll call from my right.
Paul Sanderson?
Chester DeRocky.
Vaughn Morgan.
Chip Huzzy.
And we have a quorum. I can't say Jim Ralston isn't here yet, but it's not quite 7 o'clock, so. But anyway, the first order of business is under appointments where we have Mr. Alan Gold, Municipal Resources, Inc., to discuss the needs assessment regarding the fire department. Let me, just for the record, mention that back in 2012, the board at that time realized it would be a good idea to get together with the fire chief and discuss the ramifications of building a new fire station, citing that bays could barely fit a fire truck in, possibly needing overnight facilities for fire personnel, and just overall updating the fire department to meet future needs. The farthest we got at that particular time was a basic floor plan for a new station drawn up by Reese Construction Company. The fire chief and I revisited the project several weeks ago and believe it's an issue that the board ought to at least consider. So I brought it up at our July 10th meeting, and the board thought it would be a good idea to do a needs assessment report. So Mr. Gould and our fire chief are kind enough to join us this evening to take any answers and questions from the board, and I will welcome any input from the public. But first, I would like to ask Mr. Gould if he would explain just what an assessment needs is.
Sure. Let me start out, if I could, by introducing the company a little bit. So MRI has been in business for more than 25 years now. I happen to be the president. And we've done fire organizational studies from Aiken, South Carolina to Presque Isle, Maine, and every place in between. Every one of those organizational assessments, I do have a list. I only made one copy. This is a list of clients, past and present, and there's contact info on there, but it's 10 pages long, so I didn't want to make more than one copy. And it's in alphabetical order, so I think it starts with Connecticut. So every one of the organizational assessments we do includes an assessment of facilities. So as I understand it, in speaking with Chief Cresta recently, it's more of a facilities needs assessment you're doing than staffing or anything else. Many communities your size are struggling with the staffing issues. So, we're very well versed at what it takes to operate a fire station, what the needs are for the fire station. We team up with architects in various states to provide their expertise. They may be experts at designing buildings, but when it comes to designing fire buildings or police buildings, they can use more of our technical expertise to make sure that it's operationally sound. And, we firmly believe that towns should get what they need, not more than what they need. Although you need to build in some factor for growth because you don't want to be building one of these buildings every couple of years. Sometimes because we do so much of this, we're out of the vacuum, so to speak, so that there are many fire and police chiefs that if they're going to build a building, they know what they know that's related to that regional area. But because we get out beyond that, we know what might be going on in other parts of the country that may be very applicable to you folks. That may be a real solution to a design issue.
Okay. Ralph, could you just, I know that in the past, you, Karen, myself, and Paul have sat down with surrounding towns and to see whether or not we could work something together with them. And I guess the surrounding towns just, to my way of seeing it, just did not fall into what it is that we needed to do. Can you just briefly explain?
We met with the town of Stratham, and we also met with the town of Newington, selectmen, and the head of the fire department at that time. And we were trying to do something more with Stratham to make Stratham up to our standards as far as what we're doing for hourly. We're doing 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then we decided to do the standby pay at night. It came down to the Stratham selectmen weren't really interested in doing that. From the conversation that everybody had, you and I were there. They weren't really interested in it. At this point, I'm not saying they're probably not going to come back. Hopefully they do, because it'd be a good merge type of deal that, we each had the same thing. And if we went on an ambulance call, a motor vehicle accident, we sent an ambulance, they'd send an engine and vice versa with us. Just to use your mutual aid system more than anything. It's not signing a contract, it's using the mutual aid system that we already have. Then we went over and talked with Newington, and we kind of got the same results. But their budget was $1.4 million, $1.5 million at that point, and they were pretty happy doing what they were doing. And they have 3 full-timers, 24 hours a day. Then they got a bunch of per diem people. Well, I guess they call them part-time people that fill in the other shifts. They got 5 or 6 people on duty at times. But they got a big industrial area also. You got to remember that.
Right. And geographically, they weren't able to help us as much because a lot of their work is at the mall, that area, the industrial area, and that bridge. So they were afraid to come to Greenland, and then they would get stuck and not be able to serve their town.
Don't get me wrong, we are still doing the mutual aid stuff a lot more with Stratham. We're doing, ambulance calls over there. If we need some help, even trying to call them during the day. They're having the same issue as we are at night, but our issue is dwindled down. We're doing very well with probably, in the last 3 months, we've had mutual aid from Portsmouth probably 4 times total. So that really went downhill since the per diem evening stuff. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Now, I think it's important to also note that comparing, let's say, 2 years ago to today, our volunteer fire department has dwindled. Is that not correct?
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't something that's just endemic to Greenland. This is happening all over the country. And so, we have to look at a situation where do we, keep a fire department here, or do we allocate it to another town, or whatever it might be? I have talked to insurance companies. If we were to lose our fire department, your homeowner's insurance rates would skyrocket. That's just a fact. They would just go up quite a bit. And I don't have the actual figures in front of me, but it's just a factor would go up. So it's a good idea, if we can do it, to keep a fire department here in the town of Greenland. Not only that, but we have more control over it as long as if we don't have a lot of other towns involved in it.
That's always what it comes down to. We do a lot of studies on just regionalization and consolidation because, I mean, that's really where the future is going to be because towns just can't have all of their own specific services. But you mentioned, it's control. People want their name on the side of the truck. So we encourage towns to partner up wherever they can, whether it's sharing equipment, whether it's automatic aid, well, they do a good deal of automatic aid. And that's a really good start with these towns. But the model that you have is, I mean, very lucky that you have the model you do with the call and some per diems. That people just don't work in the same community they live anymore, and that's why the whole call firefighter model is going away. They're just not able to respond from wherever they're working. You get maybe a better response at night and on weekends when they tend to be around. So the model that you have, it's great that you've been able to keep it, but it's also good that you start looking down the road a little bit for what this might look like 5-10 years down the road. Because when it happens, you talk about insurance going up, a lot of that's driven by the ISO rating, and a good deal of the ISO rating is based on response time. Of course, if you don't have a fire department, that changes the response time. So it's all just interconnected, and it's great that you have a part-time call chief and a part-time call department. Those people are very committed. But boy, the days of that being sustaining is coming short.
Sure, yeah. Well,
You also gotta remember in the mutual aid system, if we get a call right now for smoke in a building, you gotta remember our mutual aid system, it surrounds the town of Greenland. We have Newington coming over, Rye, Portsmouth, and we also have Stratham coming in. So, as if we have smoke in a building, the mutual aid system really works. The Seacoast Chiefs system works very well also because they have a lot of equipment that we don't need to buy because we got it through a grant. We got a command post that's worth $500,000. We got it through a grant. It's stationed in Newmarket. It's nothing. So if we need a command post or we have a dispatch problem and we need to have dispatches somewhere else, if Rockingham goes down, we can send that command post up there and do something with that. Air trailers are also the same way. We don't have to have our own cascade system. Most departments do. We're just happen to be out of room for a cascade system or trying to fill your own bottles or a washing machine.
Right. That leads us into where we are right now, is do we keep the fire department as is in the small facility or do we build a new building looking at what the future looks like?
Yeah. And for that, I'm going to disagree with what you originally said about not being a staffing question. It really is a staffing question. Where are we in that system that Ralph had described inside the Seacoast Chiefs and Mutual Aid? We don't want to duplicate anything. We don't want to buy the wrong thing. We want to do our share, but only our share. And so I think it is first a staffing question, followed by the facilities question based upon the staff that were identified that we really need.
Right now we have a revolving door.
Yes.
The people that are coming here, the part-timers, they're going through school, and as soon as they finish their school, there's fire departments out there, and there's such a shortage of firefighters right now, they're just scooping them up and leaving. We just lost one last week.
Yes, and so the real question is, and Ralph, you've identified that you'd like to have, a transition to a new chief, because we're not getting any younger, any of us.
Yes.
And so that's fine. So if we have a model of a chief, then what should we have for full-time firefighters? What should we have for the others? So I think it's first the staffing, and then we try to design a building based upon what we identify our real needs to be. Do we have the right equipment for what our role will be in the future? Should we have 1 ambulance, 2 ambulances? I don't know. That's where I think we need the information.
Well, I agree. I think really what you need is an organizational study. We do so many of these. We know what rocks to look under. We know what things to look at, which will return the greatest dividends to you folks. And it tends to be staffing, equipment, procedures, and facilities. Those are the big ticket, policies and procedures. That's risk, that's liability. There can be some big numbers there if that's not right. Apparatus, $1 million for for certain components now of apparatus. Buildings, you don't want to make a mistake on a building that's going to serve you for 75 years. And then staffing is it's just a matter of how long can you sustain what you have. So, honestly, I really think you need to kind of most people consider our work as a roadmap. And, we'll make recommendations for each of the chapters. So, if you will, facilities is a chapter that we do in an organizational study. And for each one of the chapters, there's a series of recommendations. And very often those recommendations are kind of seen as a roadmap that you can begin implementing them. Some of them are kind of immediate needs, particularly if it's related to risk. Some are further on down the road. People can check in on that roadmap, if you will, and see how progress is. And that's usually what we end up doing in these studies. And it just comes down to how in-depth do we need to be. So we want to be able to answer your questions, but of course time is money to us, so we don't want to answer more questions or more minutia than what you need to know. And I usually, I very often say to people, trust us. Tell us what you're looking for generally. We'll answer those questions, and because we do so much of it, we know where to look and what to report back on, because we wanted to see the biggest evidence for you folks.
Yeah, from my own perspective, I'm not focused on building yet because I don't know what to build. I don't know what to build it for. So to me, I'm at the earlier phases of what you're talking about. And so what can you tell us about how long this might take and what it will cost?
It usually takes, if we're going to do an organizational study, it usually takes a couple of months because we need to, we do a number of on-site visits, and we want to understand what it is you do and how you do it, so that we can make recommendations for the future. We would assess your current facility to determine where the issues might be with that facility. Sometimes we find things that are just unsafe when we walk through the door. We try to let people know that right away if people are in harm's way. So when it comes to cost, again, it all matters to time and how specific, how much of the minutia you want us to get into. So you can do an organizational study from $9,500 to for a community this size to mid-teens, high teens, someplace in there. Again, time is money, and I just tell people, if we're competing for an RFP, then there's a very specific set of scope that we're going to bid on. And there are many communities, particularly in New Hampshire, that know us, that they don't want to go through that process. They don't have to because of the dollar amount. And, we simply say, how much can you spend on this? And that will determine how much detail we're able to give back.
Okay. So I think we know some of the detail already. Like, we're definitely part of the mutual aid system. We're definitely transitioning from the part-time call into a full-time type of a model. We definitely know that a chief is going to be coming on sometime in the near future. We definitely know that we don't have any of the practices and policies that you're talking about in the sense of a full-time department. We do have practices and policies, but for part-timers, not for full-timers. And I don't think we know where we fit inside what the Seacoast Chiefs might envision for us as part of the puzzle. Because, with mutual aid, we are regional even if we're not regional. So, with that in mind, I hope we're on the lower end of the figure you're quoting. To be able to get us something to where we can say, over the next 3 years, you're going to need to add X number of people, and start putting together that type of personnel budget. And then we know from looking at your building, you've got basically the right trucks, but you have no place to keep your people on a 24-hour basis. That's kind of what we know.
Right. Very often we're able to come up with maybe some alternative funding sources or to help people find other funds. You're probably pretty hooked into the grants.
Yeah, Karen's been working on some grants trying to.
Yeah, and we do a lot of that work too. So if we see something that you're not availing yourself of,
Yeah.
or we actually have people on the teams that sit on those grant review processes. So although they can't sit on anything that we're related with, we do have some insight as to what's being looked for in those things. So there are some people we just write grants for. We have a pretty high success rate.
The last grant we saw was it had to be shovel ready like the next month, and
Yeah, you didn't get that one. That was the survival, the first response for hazmat things.
Right. Then they had
got on
the
the waiting
full-time
list.
people, which we tried to put in for
Which we
the.
got.
Yes, but we didn't have any, we had no full-time, we had to have at least one full-timer on.
It was the incentive one for staffing, but you could only use it for existing, for new staffing coming in. It was a recruitment
Right.
incentive.
We had
And
to have
so we
one
couldn't
full-timer.
share it with
Was
the
that
staff.
assistance to firefighters?
Yeah, it was an AFG,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was one that RIDE had gotten. They couldn't use it, so they gave it to, we got it transferred to us, and then we couldn't use it either.
I believe the PD just went through that. We went through that with the PD 4 or 5 years ago, is that correct? One person didn't.
Oh, that was the cops one. That was more than
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. That's like 14 or 15 years ago.
Dating
Time
myself.
flies.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
I'm talking about, right?
You have to be ready to fund some of those too when they come off the grant period, like the cops grants. I think it was after 4 years you had to fund it.
Yeah, and which we've done it. That's how we got number 7.
Do you see any funding out there at this point?
I'm not as entrenched in that system as my fire team is, so it'd be pretty easy to talk to them and see what's out there, what's coming out. We tend to hear about it as soon as it comes out.
Yeah,
And if
it's
it can
getting
apply
ready.
to you, then we can give you some pointers as to how you want to write that grant, or if you need some technical assistance in writing the grant.
Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is just, if the board has any questions, because you need some information as to which direction to take yourself. And I think I'm going to start with Chip, because Chip has been on the fire department, and
I guess that I'm also going to be on the budget committee. And the first question, Ralph, you mean to have $9,400 of slush in your budget?
I'd be close, but it's not really not a slush, but
The reason why I would just ask that is I'd rather wait till if we're going to fund it out of the budget, wait till closer to the end of the year so we know we want to get stung with something else.
yep, we're not that far away.
No, we're not. We're only halfway through the budget.
We're more than halfway through the budget season, just see what we got, and hopefully don't have any
What I'm
problems.
saying about October, November, then we can make a better decision on this to go forward.
Because I'm not sure you have any other funds.
The only other thing I would add is we're definitely going to have to replace the Public Works building. So the idea is to turn this fire station into Public Works. We need to see what actually needs to be done to that.
The public
the
works
bill-
on that side or this one?
That one there, I know it's going to happen, and that bee's coming over and dropped one. But the one out back where they made it about 20 feet short on the depth.
You still gotta fix that building so it'd
Right.
be usable.
Yeah.
Right,
And Chip's been
exactly.
talking about a roof, and we've been doing different things. We did some welding in the bottom of beams the last few years, and
Hey, while I'm thinking about it, and I only think about it once in a while, can a plow truck fit in through the doors that are presently there? Or we got to have engineering done?
you can get a plow truck in. I do believe they're 12-foot doors. You're not gonna get a huge sander on top of them, then no.
Because that's going to be one of the problems we have to deal with.
Those doors are only 12 foot by 12 foot, and nowadays they're putting 14 by 14s in. As you go look at the buildings, my people aren't the greatest drivers in the world.
well, that's a two-sided sword. I mean, you've got the plow trucks that could barely fit into it, and the fire trucks that could barely fit into it.
And that's the issue. That's why we're seeing the edge of the building.
The engineering would basically be to see if we need to put a wider door in, then we might have to take 2 doors out and do it that. Now, that's for our planning forward. The other thing is you got a broken window on one of these doors.
Good point. Jim?
Well, I definitely think we need to get some planning done. I guess I would go along with Chip, maybe wait a little bit longer and to this fiscal year and see where we go from there.
I agree on waiting till the fiscal year, but I think it's a good idea. It gives us a good direction to look at, what to look for and what to think about.
I disagree on waiting, and the reason for it is, if we get some sort of a product, then we can at least get it into this year's budget committee process. We might be able to get something put aside in a capital reserve fund, start planning for the next budgetary season. We'd also be able to give the budget committee a lot more guidance as they develop the fire department's budget with regard to personnel. I'm not so much worried about the building yet. I'm worried about adding people and getting ready for people. We know Ralph is not going to do this forever, and if we don't start building the budget with a real full-time chief in there, that we're going to have a problem. And I don't see us doing that until we have this product telling us, yes, that's where we're going, yes, that's what we need. So that's why I think we should be doing at least this organizational portion of it in enough time to get to this year's budget committee, which is going to start in October, November.
Yeah. Well, September, October, we start putting together your budget to go to the budget committee, so.
But their meetings will
Coming
be,
up. Oh, yeah.
yeah, by December, they need to know.
If we were to get some of the money through donations, would that help us at all?
You're not going to get enough, for the study?
The study, I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about
You'd like to
full-time.
donate fire chief. But, yeah, nothing wrong with that, but I also think we can work with the town administrator and some of our lines here to see where we are, to see if we can put together this type of funding, say up to 10,000.
Okay, and
But I really think it's important to get the people part of this started. I don't think we're ready for building. We're ready to know what people we need.
So you're saying you don't want to go over $10,000, is that correct?
I'd love to be able to spend about 10 to get enough knowns so we can start telling the budget committee this is what's coming. You know, this year so much, the next year so much. You know, as we did this last time when we told people we had to move towards the permanent part-timers. That was a major change. Okay. And that was a significant portion of the budget. But at least we were able to tell the story and why, you know, so that people did support us. So I'd like to be able to do the same sort of thing again, saying we're continuing our transition with people.
And for that kind of money, you know, we can do a pretty good job for you. We're going to hit those things that are highest on the priority list that we really think you need to know based on our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, after we submit a draft report for review, we're able to answer further questions. You say, oh, can you give us a little more there? Can you give us a little more here? We tweak it at that point. So that's a reasonable number to shoot for.
If you had said, I believe you said it would be about a 2-month time
Yes.
frame. So is that going to give us time enough to?
By around the 1st of October, we'll be well along our process, but the regular budget committee won't have started, so that'll be right on time.
We generally forward it to the budget committee shortly after Halloween.
Well,
Right, and
if
Really
we
want to
can-
scare them, don't you?
If we can find the money in the budget, then I guess I would go along with what Paul said, because there's no sense dragging it over.
I'm sure I could find 5.
Yeah,
Maybe I could find some more.
I'm sure we can work together to fund something of that range, especially for something that really is important like this. You know, again, we have to tell
Right,
the
there are a
people.
couple there is a line item under general government for consultants
Yes.
that we've always reserved there in case we had somebody leaving and needed to do a recruitment study, anything like that. So I believe that's either 1,000 or 2,000 right there.
You know,
Well,
on
not-
a project this size, that's nothing we have to build anything in advance for. You know, most often we take we do payments in like 3 payment, you know, terms. But on this study, we can float this right to the end. That's not an issue.
And I really believe that we can work together on this to get this amount of funding set aside. If we don't start telling people the story, then we're not going to get community support for the idea. You know, and I don't want to go to the budget committee, sit back in a chair and say, this is what I think. That doesn't cut it. They want some backup. But this is the best way to get back.
Okay, well, I also think the town needs to know, going forward, what's going on with the fire department. It's a crucial part of our town, in every single respect. And to me, to start laying the groundwork right now, in fact, I think we should have started way back in 2012. We did start, but we didn't finish it. Something needs to be done about it. And I think this is a needs assessment. Karen and I went through this earlier. A real needs assessments can range $50,000. And I think if we can get Mr. Gold's firm to do something for us for $9,000, whatever.
Right, just focus on one department.
Yeah, is a good idea. So I'd be much in favor of getting the wheels rolling on this. Anybody else like to Okay, then what I would like to do is ask for a motion to move forward with this and authorize the town administrator to work,
Money.
drive the money to get a needs assessment done. So would anybody like to make a motion on that?
Sure, I'll make the motion to authorize the town administrator to enter into a potential agreement with MRI in a sum up to $10,000, looking for an organizational study of our needs of our fire department.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes.
That's, I get.
You didn't ask for that.
Thank you, Mr. Gold, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'll work on a scope to
Okay.
get you Karen.
Yeah.
And we can kick that back and
Yeah,
forth.
let me just grab my card to you.
Okay, great.
Thank you for the AC, by the way.
You're welcome.
Great.
Okay, the second order of business is I've asked the Recreation Committee to meet with us regarding several issues. I've read about their minutes and to see if we can't work together to iron these things out. So, I've gone through the minutes and it seems like we have a lot of issues here, such as missing minutes, late payments to referees, your concerns regarding safety risks at the fields, responsibility for maintaining the fields. I know that you thought maybe the school ought to get involved with that also. Understanding, but
No, I don't.
I read that in your minutes.
Maybe we're talking about the Greenland field.
Well, that's all right. I'm
Okay.
just bringing these up.
Okay.
What I have read in the minutes, all right? Understanding where monies go for some summer concerts. That was in your minutes also.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting rec members properly sworn in. Okay. Getting minutes to the town clerk. The town clerk is responsible for the keeping of the records. So the minutes need to go to the town clerk also, as well as Charlotte. Okay. In holding meetings at brew pubs. I would love to hold my meetings at brew pubs too, but you know that's something that needs to be discussed. Okay. So why don't you just tell us what it is you'd like us. We want to work with you. The Board of Selectmen want to work with the rec committee.
Yeah.
You guys do a great job. You really have. In the past, you've done a wonderful job. But you have some issues that need to be addressed, and what we want you to do is come before us because we'll bend over backwards to help you. We do. You guys do a great job.
Well, thank you. We do. And first of all, the minutes, I think the minutes that you're missing is partly due, I know why you're missing your minutes. They've been going to Charlotte, and for whatever reason, they're not going to you as
Jess
well.
all the time.
What's that?
I used to get them from Jess all the time. I don't care if they go to
Jess.
Charlotte
Well,
too, but
Erica-
they should come to me directly.
Right. So Erica sends them to Charlotte. That's what she thought she was supposed to be doing. But I'll make sure she knows she has to copy them to you. I thought they were getting forwarded.
Yeah,
but
I think I had told Jess.
She's trying to be efficient. She would get them 3-hole punch and put them in the binder in the vault.
And then I wouldn't know.
And
they
she
were
wouldn't
in.
have known they
Okay.
came.
Okay, that's
And if there's
a quick
anything
fix.
involving money,
Okay. Yeah.
Liz needs to get them too, so she
What's
knows
that?
what's going on.
Oh, about the money.
Yeah,
Yep.
so if I get
So
them, at least I'll
basically,
read them.
everyone really
and-
needs to get them in
forward.
the office, I guess, except maybe not.
Yeah, whatever.
you
I
two.
just long as I
Okay.
get a copy, I'm happy.
That's fine. The other, you've mentioned the late minutes or minutes that are missing.
Right.
That's unfortunate. With Brian was still the rec director.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we don't know when he was taking the notes. I don't know if we'll get those.
Okay.
And I wasn't present because that was tax season, and I don't even think Erica was was there a lot. And Chester certainly wasn't there yet. So,
Do you think it would help if you recorded your minutes?
I don't know. I can bring that up. We're having a meeting soon,
Okay.
but I don't know. I
I mean, you
mean,
don't have to. And the law
Yeah.
doesn't say you have to record your minutes, but
Right.
if you haven't recorded, then
right. What we've been doing lately, and I think it works out really well, is we take them right then during the meeting, and then we approve them right then and there. So we all will go through them. We all say we approve them, and then I think she emails them right then to Charlotte, but now we'll copy them, of course, to,
Okay.
to everyone else.
All right.
So, so the biggest concern, I think, you mentioned the concert. My understanding, what we were talking about was we had to approve monies for the summer concert, which of course we don't have a problem with. But I think the rec committee wanted to be more involved with that. In what exactly is the money going to? There seemed to be a little problem there when we were told we needed to approve certain monies, and we're like, sure, but what do we were a little in the dark.
Sure.
It's possibly due to the fact that Brian was director for such a long time. He knew this stuff very well. So it's almost like we kind of have to review a certain process and procedures to make sure that we all understand what's going on.
Right,
Sure,
because Barbara
understand.
probably dealt directly with Ryan.
I think he did. And so we're like, well, what are you even talking? We didn't know.
Yeah.
And then we also, with Brian, who was wonderful, I don't want to take away anything from Brian, he was wonderful, but he would approve payments as well. And we realized that's not a good policy.
Right,
And
the
that
auditors
was-
pulled that
Right.
the committee needs to approve it. A bill would come in, Brian would just approve it.
Right,
Mhm.
because that was acceptable back then.
Right.
But now the auditors are saying, really not a good idea. And Erica and I, of course, accountants, we agree it's not a good idea. So that's not a problem. But there's a few things we're ironing through with this changeover of director. So, and then the big thing, I think, the more important item I thought was the preparation of the fields or the maintenance. And Chester that's his area of expertise. And he was thank you, was helpful in that we have to come up with a schedule. We need to know when we can do it. How much of it comes out of our funds? Does it come from the town? We don't know. So we need a direction on that. Like what does our money buy? What can we spend our money on?
Sure. Okay.
So,
We can talk about these in order, or I'll get it all
well,
out
however you
anyway.
want to do it.
Okay. Whatever you want.
Go ahead.
Okay, we can go back a little bit on the concert, because that I think is fairly easy.
Yeah.
The history of the concerts, they were done really as a joint work between the town, the Greenland Women's Club, and also the vets. And so what would happen is they would say, we need to make arrangements with X ahead of time and give them some sort of a guaranteed payment. Well, because this was a municipal issue, we needed to have some source of funds. So at that point, the rec committee came forward and said, well, we could use the recreation revolving fund as a guaranteed source of payment. That doesn't mean that we're trying to take it out of the revolving fund. We're just saying we always know we have enough to take care of it. And then they would go forward and they would, through contributions and otherwise, raise the money and only go to the recreation revolving fund for whatever amount would be taken care of with donations. So that's why. And the other part of the theory was that the concerts really are a recreational opportunity for other people in town other than the kids, because there had always been a complaint that all services were for kids, nothing for the other age groups in town.
Right, and what I can add in there historically on the financial end of it, other than 1 year, the donation and revenue in for concerts covered the expenses.
We're not complaining about that.
Yeah,
No,
1
that
year
the
is
money's
not
coming
sure.
out of the fund. That's
Yeah.
not our issue.
No, just
We just were like,
Right, but it's,
Okay.
at this point, it is more than even. The rainy year, just,
Yeah.
the rainy year, nobody went to concerts, nobody made donations. I mean, I think we only ended up with 1 or 2
For the whole season.
for the whole season. So that year was a loss by a few $100s. This year, we've got some amazing donations,
Yeah.
and it's way ahead.
Yeah, and so far as the acts and booking them, the Women's Club generally has done that because one of their members, Kathleen Van Camfort, that's part of what she does in her work at Bolorama and otherwise. So she was the person that knew the acts. Brian was the first one to say, I'm not into figuring
Yeah,
out
we don't care who plays.
who these groups want to be. So that's why the selection didn't go back through the rec committee. That doesn't mean that it can't in the future. That's just the historical practice of why it was the way that it was. And so it's really been a great partnership between the vets who do the food, the Women's Club who do this arrangement, and the rec committee which backs it all up.
Right, and the town, we make sure that everything is all set up, the porta potty, put the cones out. all
Police
that.
coverage,
Yeah.
that sort of. So it's been that sort of partnership with those division of labor. And more than happy to talk about how it can go forward, and if that needs to change, that's fine. But that's how it got to where it is.
Okay.
And just so you know, the concert committee does have a gathering once or twice a year, and you're more than welcome to join in on that. I will see to it that Barbara gets notification out to the rec department so that you can join in on those meetings.
Okay.
Okay?
And so I would say, for the future, we want to make sure the partnership continues.
Right,
It's working.
and I understand Sharon's part of it. When we got a request in from Barbara to pay, X number of dollars for the various bands or whatever, they have to approve it because it comes out of the revolving fund.
Yes.
But they're like, who's this?
Right.
Well, and then we didn't have
not
a
enough communication.
Right, and Barbara thought that I could approve it, and I'm like, not anymore. We have to go to committee, and that was the other thing was the delay.
Right.
So she was delayed on getting her money because we didn't even know what she was talking about, and we couldn't, one person or two people couldn't
Sure.
approve it. So we had to have, and everyone at the meeting was going, huh, what? So we didn't know what that was about.
And that's fine.
Yeah. So,
That's fine.
Okay.
So far as money goes, okay, the general thing. For a long, long period of time, the general theory of the Budget Committee and otherwise was that the town would appropriate enough money to take care of fields and capital needs, because those were available 24/7 for all citizens, all year long. And that the Recreation Revolving Fund was to be user fees from parents to pay for all the variable costs. And so that was to take care of all the referees and the supplies and all of that. But that the basic fields themselves are town assets, and that should be coming out of the town appropriation. Over time, yeah.
The one thing I want to add into that is when the warrant article was written, it did include the fees from any rental of the fields went to the revolving fund. So right from the beginning, and a good example is the men's softball league that rents Cresco. They pay a healthy amount to rent that for the season. So from that fund pays the lights for Cresco Field.
Because historically,
Exactly.
how much time in the Budget Committee did we waste on the lights for Cresco Field?
Yes. So
Karen and I can tell you the story.
right. So some of the field maintenance things are costs that are basically that they spend money that they've rented the fields out.
Yes, and
To the
to me,
different soccer leagues, things like that.
yeah, and to me, the lighting is an example of very.
It's a very good example.
So that was the general division between the two. Now, to me, over time, the Recreation Revolving Fund has grown beyond what it ever really had been contemplated to be. For many, many years, the appropriation was in the 30,000 range, and then the revolving fund generally stayed in the $20,000, $30,000 range too. But now it's grown. And there had been some thought back that was being used somewhat as a savings account for changes in the future alone. That's really not appropriate. If we were going to do that sort of a use, that would be a capital reserve fund. And it's not that anyone's doing anything wrong, it's just that's not what it's for, is to take care of each year's variable cost. To make sure that you never have any slow payments to referees, that you can't buy supplies, that you can't arrange if you need to rent something yourself. That's your fund to keep all of those things going. Okay, but it's not the savings account for the future. That's a capital reserve fund. When the town identifies purpose, if we said we want to put X amount of money into improvements of Maloney Field, fine. We do that as a capital reserve fund, just like we do to save for a fire truck or an ambulance or any other thing. But the revolving fund is not a savings account.
Right. But they can use money from the revolving account if they want to do, let's buy some extra infield mix at Maloney Field.
Oh, sure, yes.
Regular routine.
No, but I just meant it's not a big capital savings for the future. Okay, and we don't ever want the revolving fund to go down near zero so that you are cash poor, but nor do we want it to go up to a very high amount that's way beyond your annual variable needs.
Right, and for the past 3 years, it's pretty much income and expense balanced.
And that's what it should be.
Right, and that's when it was first established, and I want to say that was like 2005-ish, 2004. Nothing was pulled out. They didn't start to draw on it till like 2007. So we had 2 years of revenue basically to get it
To
established.
get the buffer in there.
Right. And for a while it was making substantial money, but at least in 15, 16, and so far 17, it's revenue expense neutral.
And so it's doing its job. It's
Yeah.
enabling you to buy what you need.
So I guess that was part of our question is, we need to make, we believe, we need to make improvements to the Maloney Field. There's large divots, things of that nature that we want to fix. Because they're dangerous for the children to be playing on those. They can turn an ankle and that's not good.
Right.
So that can be very expensive. So does that come out of the revolving fund or do we have to, because it has happened, I think last year, I may be misspeaking, but the comment from the budget committee was, how come they want us to spend money on the field when they have a large checking account balance?
And I tried to do my best to explain to them what these funds were.
I don't doubt that for a minute. But that was, so we're like, so what is a capital expenditure? I mean, I know my definition of a capital expenditure, but what is the town? And that's part of what we wanted guidance on is.
Right. Giving them a threshold that if it's a
Kind of a
$500
threshold.
repair,
Well, I
you guys take care of the $500
Right.
repair, but if it's $5,000,
Well, that's another question, Karen. My understanding is if it's over 3,000, we have to send it out to bid or
10.
something?
We changed the
Okay.
purchasing policy was adjusted.
Remember that came up, Chester, at one of the meetings?
Yeah, 10,000 is that it has to go up for a competitive bid.
Okay, equals a competitive, all right. That's one of the questions. So what is
And
the?
again, that's a policy. It depends
Right.
upon the individual project.
I understand, but that was discussed. We thought it was around 3 or 4. We couldn't
No,
remember.
it's higher.
It
Okay,
used to be. We used to have to bid everything, and
okay.
now it's more reasonable, that
That
cost
was,
went
that
up.
was back when $2,000 or $3,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a
Well,
$5,000.
When was that?
Yeah.
And as you just heard us when we're talking to MRI, we're looking at a $10,000 expense here. That was not a bid situation.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So again, it's a problem by problem type of analysis.
Okay. So that was our first, so in the, it is difficult, we've talked about that, we don't have a lot of fields and they're very busy, but there are times when we want to, I don't know, this is where Chester's more knowledge, how do we fix those divots, what's the best way going forward? And then, is this something, do we come to you guys and say, look, we want to do this, can we take it out of the funds, or do we have to bring it to the town?
That's where we have to start working together, looking at your
Okay.
budget
Right.
to see what's possible.
Right.
Okay.
Come September, October, when I put the budget request into the mailbox for rec, for the past many years prior to you, it never came back. So the budget was always just level funded.
Okay.
So when it comes back this time, you'll say, these are the projects that we need to get
Okay.
done.
Yeah, and if there's been deferred maintenance of that type that needs to get dealt with, then we can go to the budget committee and say, we're fixing a deferred maintenance.
Right. We try to put 10,000 every year into the budget for a permanent repair something. One year it was the tennis courts, 2 years ago it was all the fencing.
Mhm.
This year it was supposed to be a piece of equipment that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But there's like generally a $10,000 line item
Okay,
that what your next need is.
okay.
Yeah,
All right,
so
this is helpful, thank you.
I saw in the minutes you were having issues with buildings, not surprising, okay?
Yeah.
So let's take a look at that carefully and see what you think really is a priority and go to the budget committee and tell the story.
Okay,
And Sharon, it's always a good idea during budget time if you can attend some of the budget meetings, because there'll be questions there that Paul will have to answer, and
Right.
Chester will be.
Oh, Chip will have to answer. And like last year, Paul
But
and
if
I
you're there,
tried to get that
It helps to
piece
have
of
somebody from
equipment.
the rec department there. too.
yeah, I'm on the budget committee, so I'll.
Oh, that's right, that's good. Well, you were there last year when we tried to get that piece of
That's right.
equipment, and
Well, then it kind of went back and forth, if you recall, Paul.
That's what it did.
Right, so. I didn't feel like I was in the capacity of the rec committee at that particular meeting, so.
you were on the learning curve.
I was on the learning curve.
Well,
Exactly. So,
just as we earlier said to the fire department tonight, we have to start telling the story,
right,
you know, and budget committee members don't necessarily know anything of what you do. And that way, we can start showing some pictures and start telling the story. That's the best way for people to understand why you're doing what you're doing.
okay, great. So that, I think, did we hit most of those topics? that-
I think we did.
The brew pub.
The what? Well,
No, we're not talking about that.
before we get to the brew pub thing, But one of the questions I had going through your minutes was that,
We're just trying to
if I can
get
find it here,
membership.
you said your profits were down 31% from 2016. Do you know why were they down?
I didn't, that was something Erica noticed immediately, looking at the financials. I think that was just a mere figure that we could calculate that it was down, our revenues were down.
Okay, well, I think when those figures are brought up, it's good to know why. You know, I've owned my own business in my time, and if my profits are down that much, I
Right.
want to know why.
Right.
Well,
Sometimes it's a matter of timing, like when the report that I give to them shows to date 2017 and then as a comparison to date 2016, just like the
Right.
expenditure reports and revenue that I give to the board.
Okay.
So sometimes it's just a matter of timing, that maybe this camp that happened in 16 was later, hasn't happened yet.
right,
You
and
know.
the other thing too is, as an accountant, I wouldn't know unless I could see the data and all of it. I don't know if I'd have the permission to hang out with Liz and go through it and take a look and do that type of analysis.
Right.
I don't know if you want me to do that, if that needs to be done, but that was
I
just.
want you to get involved as much as you want to get involved.
Oh, okay.
Believe me, and if you have any questions whatsoever,
They're on the books, yeah.
and I know it's a lot of work.
I know,
believe me,
yes,
and I appreciate what you do.
And I know you know.
But, you know, please feel free to come to any meeting here, Board of Selectmen, if you have any questions. And, you know, Chester's new here, so, but he gets right into stuff, so. And if you can't make it, he'll bring it up before the board and we'll resolve it, period.
Okay.
That's just the way it is, yeah.
What's the impact of the new ball fields that Portsmouth has built? Is that going to impact
The what?
the impact of the new ball fields that Portsmouth is building?
I don't know, is it a base, I don't know, are they building a baseball or a softball?
Multi-purpose artificial turf.
Where are they building that? I didn't even-
Stuff done by the planes.
And they aren't moving forward yet, apparently.
They're
Well,
still
guys,
arguing
again-
about the surface, whether it's rubber-based or not.
I mean,
Well, it depends on how much they're gonna charge.
Problem they
too.
weren't
There's
supposed
probably
to
a lot of questions out there.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
The big guys are, the Crasco Field goes to the softball team,
Mhm.
the men's league. So, there's a shortage of fields, so I'm sure there's plenty of people who, I mean, that's another thing we talked about. You know, if we lose the men's softball, do we make that a baseball field? There's a lot of questions out there. And would we get more use if it were a baseball field, which, yeah, there's a big difference between the two. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Getting your rec members sworn in. I know Erica Ron does a great job and everything else. I don't believe she's sworn in. I don't believe she's come up. What is the procedure?
She
for
hasn't
that?
even requested to you, has she? To
We
be
haven't seen her come up and
reappointed. She's
request
got to
to
be
be a member.
reappointed before she can be
So-
sworn in.
You know, legally, all her votes don't count.
okay, so
Right?
does Erica need to come to a select, because this is something we didn't always necessarily, I've never come in front of the select board.
Right. This is all new, so this is, I know
Right.
it's new to you.
But you can send
But-
a letter, Sharon, saying, requesting your permission.
Right.
So
Requesting
for a
the
renewal.
appointment.
Okay, so she can just
Sure.
send a letter.
That's what you did
Perfect.
before.
All right.
Also, we have a form that you've used that's easy to fill out. That you
That
can-
Karen's probably gonna forward to me in an email?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
That's
thinking.
excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
It's a simple little form, just saying who you are with all the contact information, you know, and why you'd like to be a member of the rec committee.
Right. And does the board want to see her come in for an appointment?
We like to see people who, because we like to meet them, and I think it's good for them to
This
meet
is
the
a
board too.
reappointment.
So, but if, yeah, no, but I'm just saying,
Right. She was in a few months
It's
ago
a
when we did the
reappointment, right?
credit card thing,
yeah.
the Sports Illustrated thing.
But if she can submit a letter, we go Erica, so if she can submit a letter, I don't think there'll be a problem.
Okay.
Well, and I think we also know you're in transition because some people have aged out and you have new people that are looking to come in, right? And so we want to do whatever we can to help you recruit those new people and not burn them out too early. Because our greatest fear is that we have to schedule the T-ball ourselves.
You have to teach those little guys to run around.
Been there, done that.
Stop,
don't believe her.
Stop playing with the dirt.
Yeah, so we want your young parents. We want people to get involved and feel like it's a good thing to do. and not get overly burned out by all this.
Right.
So we're not trying to bite at them and make it difficult. We're trying to do quite the opposite.
Great.
So we will work with you. You've got a good liaison here with
We do.
Chester, and if you have any questions or anything else, and you can make it to a meeting, you'll bring it up, and we'll, I'm sure we can resolve it.
Okay.
And I know you're going to have questions that are going to come up because I was, when I first became a selectman, I was liaison to the recreation department too, and a million questions came up. So feel free anytime to talk to Karen, Chester, and we'll come up before us and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
All right?
All right. So you guys are cool with group hub?
Only if I can go. It's just,
Well, this is part of our, we want to recruit people to come in and hang with us, and we thought
Only
this.
the official public meeting part. If you guys want to have an evening like you're talking about to recruit or something, fine.
Call it recruitment night, not meeting.
Yeah, just don't do your regular business there. That's all.
Okay.
You know, if that's where people will come and socialize and ask questions and be part of your group, fine. Just don't approve your bills and hold your public meeting and all that other
That should
stuff.
be an incentive to end the meeting quickly so they get their.
That's right, yeah.
well, Sharon, Chester
can be
has
here for the
a
first
copy
15
of Knowing the Territory, which is a great book, all right? Two things I recommend you read. One is the Right to Know policy, and the other one is what the rec department, how it interfaces with the town. I think that is my Bible. So if you...
Are you passing that to me?
I just set it out there, I didn't really appreciate it.
Just to read and give it back.
Just to read and give back, you bet.
But it's good reading, and it simplifies everything for you. No, that's not all rec department.
That's the whole town.
A lot of stuff.
Okay.
Section.
But it talks specifically about the revolving fund and theories on it.
Sure.
Okay?
So no meeting at the brew pub, but we can recruit at the brew pub.
Sure.
And
Schedule your meeting to meet here for the first half an hour and depart from here.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you have a coaches meeting, you know, that's not your official business meeting. You're having a coaches meeting, right? In a particular sport, that's no problem. But that's not where you approve your bills and do the other type of business. You know, your recreation commission business is just more of a formal, quick meeting to get those necessary things done. The same way if you organized a volunteer day over at Caswell Field to fix something, that's not one of your official meetings, it's your volunteer day to fix something.
Does this book tell me what we can have the town, or what the revolving fund can pay for, or what it can't pay
Yes.
for?
Yeah.
And it's all based on the way your warrant article was written. So your warrant article was written for recreation programs and all revenue from programs and field rentals to go into the fund.
As opposed to bigger towns where they have staff, and that's how they pay for staff.
Okay.
But here, it's designed for your program needs.
Mhm.
But the capital needs for the fields themselves, that's supposed to be the town appropriation.
Okay, and that's what we have to go through the process of.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And we'll also send you a copy of your current budget and town budget.
Thank you. This was a good meeting.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Am I done? Can I go?
Yeah, you can definitely go.
Can I go to the brew pub? And meet the rest of the rec department?
You got it.
Just kidding.
And Sharon, thank you for your volunteering. I mean, I
No
know it's a lot of work. You did a great job.
Thanks, guys. See you guys.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from July 10th. Does anybody have any questions? I just wanted to make one correction on page 4, where it said that I requested that the sign, the fire department sign be put away. That was Chip that requested that. Okay? Okay, under old business, we have a
Do
Coakley.
you have the motion?
To what? Oh. I'd like to make a motion to change the minutes as I stated.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I was asked, so I have to abstain from that one.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That motion passes.
And now do you have a motion to approve the minutes as amended, to which I will abstain.
So moved.
All in favor?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I move to approve the minutes of Monday, July 10, 2017 as amended.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
It's like the third motion.
I know it,
This is
I
the
know
third
it.
one.
All right, all in favor?
4 for, 1 abstain.
Okay.
Good luck.
Old business now?
Yes.
Coakley update?
Coakley update. There's been a few things that have been happening on this. At this point, the EPA looked at recent requests from the Coakley subcommittee that's studying the cancer clusters. Looked at some requests from them along with DES. DES agreed with the subcommittee that additional monitoring needs to be done on private wells. So EPA looked at that and they agreed, and they've added 5 private wells to the semi-annual, or twice annual water testing of wells. 2 of the wells are in Greenland. 1 is on Maple Drive, further down, and 1 is on Ferry Lane. And the other 3 are 2 of them in Northampton, 1 in Rye. And I mapped them out where from their current places they currently test. These 5 just expand that radius. So they're staying within where they think the plume is going, but expanded the radius. They had some requests to add properties on September Drive way up that they denied because they haven't had enough to show the need to extend it that way. Looking at the hydrology, they've had a lot of residents request to put their houses on the automatic testing that they've turned down, but they did add 2 that are within Greenland. There's going to be a stakeholders meeting this week that as soon as they've got it scheduled, I've asked to be included to attend that.
Did they acquiesce to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Although I thought I saw in the latest post that Coakley Landfill Group did not agree to the 5 wells. I know that's what EPA requested.
That's what EPA has made the request.
I believe
I
that
haven't seen that Coakley denied it yet, but I haven't seen the newest minutes. I did find that the minutes of the Coakley Executive Committee, they meet monthly by teleconference. I have found where their minutes are posted on the Northampton website, and they are very interesting. So I pulled all those on Thursday and read through the past several months. And as expected, Coakley is trying very hard not to get involved and not to admit that there is any issue. But they have repaired a couple of the monitoring wells that were broken on their site that they may have been aware of. One was not repaired correctly, and EPA called them out on it, and so they did do that. And most of the work that Peter Britt's does for them is billed to the City of Portsmouth from the Coakley Group. So his time is spent on that. What I also wanted to, and they are going to be, they've made recommendations for specific signage, and that's going to be at this stakeholders meeting on the surface water. There's places in the surface water where DES has confirmed high levels of the PFCs, PFOA, PFOS, that confirm the test results that were done by the Conservation Law Foundation. And so they've requested signage there showing caution, don't drink this water or don't fish here. And that's part of the stakeholders meeting that should be this week to iron those requests out. I did get an email today that I responded to once and I haven't followed up on from a resident asking the town to intercede between potential buyers of the Sewell Farm property on CB Way. Intercede between the buyers and the seller to ensure that they are well aware of any of the problems or associated problems with the Coakley landfill. And should we require the deed restriction on the properties as they sell says that no wells may be installed. They can't have an irrigation well, they'll be on public water. The resident wants that deed restriction to be further to explain why they can't have an irrigation well due to the proximity of a toxic landfill type information.
Is no.
Correct. I responded back saying that the way the laws are written, it's buyer beware. The buyer has the responsibility. The seller does have to fill out a disclosure form. It's up to the seller to sign that they are reporting any disclosures on the property. Right. The town should not be involved, and we need to exercise caution on that. And I did tell the resident the very same thing, is to be cautious. We don't want to make a statement that then makes us liable for the loss of a sale when we do not have test results that exceed EPA standards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yes, do you have news for us from Senator Morse?
No, I don't have any news. But when you say stakeholders, could you define who those people are?
It's EPA, DES, the Coakley Cancer Group Subcommittee.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. And the Coakley Group.
And that's this week?
I believe so. It was supposed to be last week, and let me see what I already know that doesn't say anything. Drew Hoffman is the one that told me that the stakeholders meeting, it doesn't say on here, because I had read that there'd be a stakeholders meeting, so I emailed Drew Hoffman and he said that it would be the week of the 24th. He was coordinating the date with Mindy Mesner, and would let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
And I expect that it would probably be in Concord.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay. I can tell you a couple of other things. Fish and Game has shared a lot of information with DES.
Okay, about the fish.
Right, and the long and the short of it is they do stock fish in the area. They're a type of trout that they call salters, because what they do is they live in the brook and they live most of their life in the ocean, and they may or may not return. So the chance that catching a trout in there that would be somehow bioaccumulative is very, very small.
They're not in there long enough.
Exactly. I can also tell you that the Air Force is doing work in Newington in the bay, testing sediments in the outfalls that have come off of the base. Not in Greenland, but in Newington, to determine if there's any of this in the sediments in these outfalls. So that is a big, looming potential test that the Air Force is doing with the EPA.
Okay.
If that's the case, that's a big one.
When will the results of that be?
They're just getting underway.
Right, they haven't even finished the testing itself yet.
Yeah. And also, I don't believe we've had any response from Senator Morse or anyone else at the state.
I don't think the committee that they put together has even met yet.
That may be the case. I mean, officially, a lot of things don't even happen in July. It would be moved to August. I mean, a lot of committees are just not meeting in July. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on code? All right. All right. I've asked the welfare policy to be reviewed concerning an assistant to the welfare officer. Karen?
Okay, well, the first part is the review. The board reviewed the policy back in April 2017. The statute requires that the board periodically review the adopted guidelines. And when we did that, 2 recommendations had been made regarding prescriptions and students. those changes have been made. They were actually made then. And so it was never brought back to the board to confirm the guidelines. So that's step one.
Yep.
And I
So,
showed you I marked where the pages were changed to.
and so, one of the items that I wanted to bring up was that in case Karen is not available, the law states that we need to address emergency welfare needs within a 72-hour business period. And if Karen isn't available, and these aren't addressed, the town can be held liable in that case. And so I think it's a good idea that we have an assistant welfare officer to be able to step in case Karen is not available. Karen has recommended the town clerk, and but it's up to the board here to nominate somebody. So I think it's a good idea that we do have an assistant.
Right, and the assistant wouldn't be doing case management, casework. Would be handling an emergency need at that moment,
Exactly.
which is generally, through the generosity of the vets and another resident that gave us some Walmart cards, we do have food, gas, diaper money available in gift cards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally the only kind of like emergency, it can't wait until the following morning.
Right.
Get the
still
gas,
should be-
keep going.
Yeah.
Yes. It's also a good idea to have someone trained in enough of the basics so that the right forms are in the right people,
Yep.
that the forms go out, the forms come back, that sort of thing, and they get to the right place the right way.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the Board of Selectmen need to know that particular thing is in place, and that there is a situation where you aren't available, that whoever the assistant is can, make a smooth transition to that, to be able to handle whatever
Yep.
clients.
And that would be helpful, because currently it's basically whoever the person comes into.
Yeah.
If they go into the town clerk's office, Marge will call me and say, this one's here, and 99% of the time, I know the person.
Mhm.
We have a very small welfare need. It's the same people on a regular basis. Sometimes they'll walk in and they'll go to Charlotte's office. Can I drop this off to Karen? Or this is the situation.
Yeah.
And so she would call me.
Yeah.
So having one place will increase the confidentiality aspect of it.
And it may not be a bad idea once a month for both of you to get together just to update each other on what's going on, so that
We could.
again, a smooth
Generally, I
transition.
would know. I know about it that day. And I don't, on some things that I know it's a one-shot deal with a resident, I would not want to update anyone else because it is confidential.
Mhm.
So I would know that this was
Can I ask you a question? Being confidential, the word confidential. If you've got a welfare officer and an assistant welfare officer, if they converse back and forth about a case, does that breach confidentiality?
no, because they're both part of the program.
Right, but if there was not a need.
And the same way, as selectmen, we have to supervise the process. So
Right.
in the right way, we can be brought into a case. We can't do it in a public meeting.
Right.
But by having this, it makes sure that the right forms get out. If a person comes in and describes a basic need, the right form gets in there.
Yeah, and she has applications, knows where the applications are.
Right, and as they come back, they provide verification of certain expenses. When the verifications come in, that person can accept them and make sure they get in the file the right way. That's all.
Well, usually, usually if they go to Charlotte comes to me, and I usually take them in here and shut the door. And then if I can get a hold of Karen, I usually try to get a hold of her.
Right, and
tell her
I
what's
would
going
think
on.
that 99% of the time you've
Yeah,
had
they're
been able
mostly
to.
quick thing. I do not know where the forms are.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I don't have any, and I don't know where they are. So tomorrow, you and I will go look.
I will show you exactly where they are.
I don't
See,
know.
this is what I'm talking about.
Yep,
This
okay.
is why you need to get together, we need to get this organized, and it's just like the rec department.
Yep,
We
no
need to
problem.
get that organized and under control, so that, so that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, that's all. Anybody else on the board?
No, it has to be kept confidential anyway.
Exactly,
So that's why I'm bringing them here.
Okay, well, to try to move this along, I'd be happy to move that we appoint the town clerk as the assistant welfare officer.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
We also need a motion to confirm the review of the welfare guidelines in accordance with RSA 165:1.
I move that we approve the welfare guidelines as modified in April 2017 to be the welfare guidelines for the town for the remainder of 2017.
Second.
I have a motion
Okay,
and
so
a-
only until December.
Just because I think periodically we just put on an annual schedule to go
Oh, so you want them annually instead of periodically?
Yeah, I-
Okay.
And the reason for that is not only could there be economic changes, I think it's good for the next board coming in to
Okay.
go through and understand a little more how the process works.
I
All
agree
right,
with
so I'll
that.
bring them back again in December.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be the same board.
Well, but I mean,
Okay.
whatever
I
timing is,
understand.
This
We-
time
we get-
next
we get
year?
to just, yeah.
Yeah.
This time next year. Okay.
just so the next board,
Okay.
begins to understand the process.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll put it down for July 17th.
I have a
Because there'll
motion.
be no changes between now and December to bring them back again.
Then instead of saying for the remainder
Yeah.
of 2017, for the next 12 months.
Perfect, that's better.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay. All right, next item is video surveillance. I got a text from the police chief, she was out on training right now. She would like to be here when we discuss the video surveillance. So I'm asking the board if we can move this on to a future meeting.
Move that we table this until such time as the police chief can be present to discuss the policy.
Second round.
All in favor?
I have a correction. On the second paragraph, video surveillance devices are not a guarantee of persons' individual safety or protection. It should be out, I guess.
Yeah, we fixed that. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't fix it on this one.
No, I know. Amy brought it to my attention after I had sent it out. There's another typo in there too that she brought to my attention. And those were the only, I sent it all out to the staff in advance, so that if they had any concerns, and that was the only thing brought to me was those two typos.
Okay, next item is ID badges.
The board had requested the wearing of ID badges be included in the personnel policy prior to implementing. So what I drafted is H in the personnel policy under the work conditions.
I have a
So
couple
that
changes
draft
to
is
that.
Okay.
Okay, first sentence, I would delete and contracted personnel, because the only one they're really gonna need that is when they're over counting, over terrorism that.
No, our assessor is a contract.
Oh,
And I thought that was that's
okay,
what started the whole thing, was our contractor was
getting all of that?
Todd as Granite Hill Municipal
Yeah.
Services. That was his identification he showed instead of Town of Freeman.
I thought you were looking for people working within the building, working like, you were gonna have phone people in here and stuff.
Oh,
like
no,
that.
I put it as contractor personnel,
Okay,
so that it was
contracted personnel?
contracted would be,
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Contracted throws me off. I don't know
Okay.
why.
Okay.
And the other thing is police staff, police officers, because to be honest with you, the secretary isn't over there, doesn't have a uniform. She'd be identified when she's in there that she's supposed to be.
Yeah, police officers by statute have their name tags on.
Yeah, they've been.
last name only.
Yeah, and so the staff, I'd also had a call from the fire chief saying, concerned about ambulance personnel, if they were wearing something around their neck that could be grabbed by a patient or something. So they all have uniform type things on anyway, so they're not identified as
Look,
being.
I heard that same thing, and that's just one individual. And I tell you, it's getting to the point where I'm going to call him a 14-year-old high school student. He doesn't stop. You can put a clip on your belt. I don't care what you wear. You don't have to wear a lanyard.
Then fine, the visible banner, whatever.
Exactly.
Right, and I had another firefighter come to me saying that he would resign if he had to do that, because he had been stalked by a patient on a Greenland call that was a mental health issue. And the patient contacted him through Facebook because he introduced himself just as his first name, but his shirt had his last name on it. And so he has since bought all of his own shirts without the embroidery because he did not want his name shown. First name only.
As the door opens up.
I'm just relaying the concern that was brought to me.
I'm more than happy to delegate the fire department issues to the fire chief. Those are all licensed personnel. I'm sure that the fire chief.
They do have identification in their wallets they have to carry.
So that if it's a question.
Well, my question is, I got people walking around in here, I don't know who the hell they are.
Well, I guess you ought to take the time and learn who they are, Mike.
No, that was one of the reasons, and one of the things we worked out with Ralph is he just going to do first name, first initial, and then it'll say fire on the back. The other thing we were looking at, something Portsmouth does, is next to kin. So they don't have to go looking through a file, they got it right on their ID, contact information.
I am happy to delegate this to the fire chief. He's dealing with licensed personnel. I'm fine with that. You know, we're just trying to have something to where it really started with the assessor that when he's out greeting people.
Right, his identification that he carries did say Granite Hill.
And I do understand the building inspector, and I understand Todd having that kind of thing. Go ahead. Did you want to say something, Marge?
You know, we've had a lot of complaints from the fire department from the guys coming and complaining about the badges. Because they get grabbed there, right? They're gonna
Well,
get
they don't have to wear the lanyard. That was just a suggestion of mounting. Ralph actually looking for the clip where the spandrel goes out. Because one of his things is eventually he's hoping that works into a way of time clock, because it'd be easier for whoever does the timesheets than if we're still part-time to swipe.
Yeah, I'm trying not to have us micromanage it.
Go ahead, Justin.
The fireman badges with any kind of,
To the
No,
like
firemen,
the police department does, I'm not.
Actually, the reason why is because they'll dig in. If you're just wearing a shirt, not a t-shirt. The
Right.
same thing with some of those pin stuff that they have.
Yeah, they have badges on their dress uniform,
Yeah,
but not their work uniform. They can't have metal on when they're going into a
Right,
fire,
right,
etc.
but that has a name on, I mean, a lot of firemen have a name on.
They have their name on the back of their bunker gear, yeah.
Right.
Generally, your ambulance calls when your people walk into the building, because they may not be on the ambulance when they come. They may be coming from home. So it identifies them for that, too.
How much is this gonna cost?
I've never seen such a problem come up on it.
It's only nothing, we already own it all.
We've never had these problems before, and now they're coming up.
I think this is something we should let the fire chief resolve.
Okay, so that takes care of the fire department.
Yeah.
Police, what about the police
The
department?
police, I leave the police department to the
Okay.
police chief.
And again, by statute, police officers have to wear a name tag. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And with regard to staff, I'm happy to let the chief decide how their staff would be identified. You know, if the secretary is there, if she has a nameplate in front of her, that's okay. I just want to have something that is an ID for her that if she goes to some other place, it's clear she's a town employee. That's
Okay,
all.
transfer station. Yes, no?
But again, I'd like to have them have some ID so that they could show a person saying, I really do work here, and I have the authority to tell you don't do what you're about to do.
Actually, they're also collecting money, too, but that's going to just be the name.
So is that an ID that they just have to have
Yeah.
on their person, or one that you want them to wear visibly?
I think on their person is fine, because if the person challenges them, why are you telling me this and who are you? Well, this is my ID, I'm an employee, and this is why I have the authority to tell you not to do what you're about to do.
Okay, last place, town staff.
And again, here, it's
Building
just
inspector,
very clearly.
Building inspector goes on to private property, and I think that's justifiable, and I think the town assessor goes under private property. And I
right,
think-
that's the contracted personnel,
Yeah,
yep.
that's the contracted personnel, yeah. Other than that, in all honesty, I
up to you
think we
guys.
all know each other.
Well, that's the problem. We do, but other people don't. That was my point.
But I've never had anybody, I mean, but that's all right. Go ahead.
I'm just saying it just kind of identifies, so someone, like I was sitting there and the guy was talking to me and I realized he thought I was the building inspector.
Right.
And I didn't have a clue right halfway through what he was talking about.
Right, it's just there's been a lot of
There's been a lot of discussion, I'll be honest with you, about wearing badges in the office. I've been here 10 years. If they don't know who I am now, oh well.
Well, you were exempted as an elected official.
Well, regardless, but the name tags are on the desks. I mean, Charlotte is in the building department. We're in the town clerk's office, come on. I mean, I've got a lot of objection to wearing badges. I mean, I know I don't have to wear them on an elected official. When we go to conference, we have a regular name tag with our name that says Town of Greenland right on it. But it says Town Clerk or Tax Collector, Town of Greenland. And we all wear the little small badges that are, and some wear them, some don't wear them.
Okay.
We just need direction.
Yeah, okay.
Charlotte's the one that she.
All right, I think everybody agrees that the building inspector, the town assessor should have badges.
How about the health officer?
And the health
Any
officer.
position
Yeah,
that comes
anybody that goes on to, anybody that goes on to private property needs to be identified. So what I'd like to do is
Is
take
this what a
this.
state ID looks like in a place that doesn't have security like me?
Right, and so, but you don't have to wear it around your neck.
No, and its primary function for me is to get me into state parks at half price.
I'm sure eligible for both of those. Actually, I get into them for no charge at all.
State of New Hampshire, when you're 65, you don't have to pay anymore.
That's right.
I know nationally, I think it's 62.
So,
Okay, so we're down to 3.
all right. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, we're going to have to go through a process here. The suggested motion is to approve the amendments to the personnel policy for the video, no.
No.
Next one is the ID, video surveillance and ID badges as written. All right, I'm going to ask for a motion.
Right, because what I did is I rolled them both into
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
change to the personnel policy.
Right, yeah. So, Chip, why don't you make a motion, we'll see how it goes through.
All right, or I'll give you your shot. Okay? It's the policy of the town of Greenland to issue an appropriate identification badge to each employee and contracted personnel. First sentence, okay? With regard to the ID badges, they must be in the possession of the employee while they're in the performance of their duties.
In the possession, okay.
Okay. They are to be displayed as directed by the department head. Okay. And that will allow police and fire and every other department to take what's appropriate for them and make it work. I think it's important they have an ID, that they have it in their possession while they're working, and they display it as the department head suggests.
Okay, and delete the rest of the paragraph, ID badges may not be traded, loaned, shared, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Is that good with you?
No.
Are you happy with that?
No, simple. Well, I'm kind of easy to get along. Well, you know that.
Yeah, okay, good.
But then leave elected officials are exempt from this requirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause we don't know what we're doing anyway.
All right, so it's the policy of the town of Greenland to issue an appropriate identification ID badge to each employee and contracted personnel. ID badges must be in the possession of the employee while performing their duties and displayed as directed by the department head. Elected officials are exempt from this requirement.
So moved.
Okay.
Do they get a discount to our parks?
This got it all apart. Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, ethics policy.
This is in response to the discussion that the board had at the last meeting, that they asked me to inquire of other towns about the ownership of tools, if it was routine that, and I approached it as mechanics, only because we're the only town that only has one person. So I asked if the mechanics generally, and well, you can see the question I posed to the listserv, if they generally own their own tools or the town owns them, and if they are allowed to, if their tools are kept on site in the town building, are they allowed to do work on their personal equipment in the town building? I received, all the responses I received, I copied for the board. It wasn't a lot, but the majority all said they do not allow the use of town property for any purpose, any personal use. A lot of the towns responded that that happened as a result of problems that occurred in their departments, or they weren't aware of it. One town says that they don't allow it, nor do they enforce it. Exeter actually, they understand that the mechanics and carpenters have used their own tools. They provide them an annual $500 tool allowance stipend in recognition that they are using their own tools at the same time.
Okay,
So that's all the information I found out about it.
okay. Where I'm coming from is that if we're going to stop Paul from coming in, the maintenance supervisor, coming in and working on his own tools here, on his own equipment here, because he uses his tools, then we need to, the town needs to spend money to buy new tools. And you're talking a lot of money, because mechanics' tools are not cheap. I used to sell tools for 35 years, I sold them. So, you know, you're talking about, right now, Paul uses his own tools, and it doesn't cost the town anything. He comes down onto his property, he brings his equipment, his own personal lawnmowers and things, to repair. So he's willing to let the town use the tools as long as he can repair his equipment here, which I don't see a problem with. Never had a problem before. I know that Chester has a problem with the liability issue on it. But if we're going to tell Paul he can't fix his equipment here, then we're going to have to spend $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in tools.
So,
Go ahead.
He has $5,000 to $15,000 in tools over there.
Oh, I have no. I really. He
Okay, so what are you
actually.
basing
I
that
think he
number
said
on?
he's got about $10,000 somewhere
I'd like
around
to see
there.
the
Yeah.
list of the tools
Yeah.
before we move forward on any of that.
Yeah.
My biggest problem is with the ethics. There's already a policy to include the use of town property for personal use, misuse of position. It's already a policy.
Mhm.
So I'm not trying to nitpick, I'm trying to enforce policy that's already written.
I understand.
And I don't see why this is an issue at all. I mean, it's black and white right here.
Well,
I don't see why it's an issue either.
actually, this just is not Paul. It's the fire department. It's computer equipment being used here, because that would be town equipment too, right? Cell phones, the whole 9 yards. I think it's a can of worms I really didn't want to get involved with, but it comes down, I've actually done done a couple phone calls myself to people I know. Unfortunately, they've retired now, but they said they were allowed to work on it, but they had to have supervisory permission. With Paul, I'd have to buy him a mirror because he'd have to ask himself.
Well, have you read any of the letters from the other towns?
Yeah.
Because they all pretty much agree. One said he didn't want to take on that battle at the moment, but they all agree. Run them up.
But what I'm saying is I've seen, like,
Complete
Portsmouth,
halt to it for ethics reasons. I mean, and if the DPW is going to get bigger and larger and more, then, I mean, one of these letters says, hey, if the mechanic wants to work on somebody else's truck at his house on the weekend, no problem. But I mean, I wonder how much mechanics is being done over this. I mean, I know I signed a bill for lawnmower repair up to Hayden's from
Chip
last meeting.
Chip
so-
knows that.
It
He's
is.
the liaison, so.
Right, no, I understand.
your maintenance stuff, your belts, your oil changes, air filters,
Right.
your sharpening of the blades. It's motor work. I don't think he's doing. I don't think he's
Right.
doing carburetor
So we
work.
need a basic tool set.
Yeah,
We don't need a giant tool chest.
you don't need the big draw, no, but you're still talking pretty close if you're using good tools. $5,000.
Yeah.
Plus an air system.
There is.
You're pretty
Who
much.
owns the compressor?
So I'm sure it says there was nothing in there when we started that building over.
No,
Nothing.
we've bought a lot though.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's town or not.
Yeah, I have the list of everything that we've bought
So, I mean,
off the top of my head.
Well,
Yes, go ahead.
May I ask, is the discussion about this being done outside of work hours? Or are we
Yes.
talking?
Yes.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
totally.
I have a question. Last year, our mower bit the dust, and he used his mower for quite a while to take care of the properties around town. What do you do about that?
Yeah, no, I know, Paul goes above and beyond, he's more than willing to do that.
Has anybody been over there to actually see, besides Chester?
I do.
He's got a whole room of tools.
He's got quite a few tools over
He's
there.
got a lot.
I don't know how many he
He's got a
really
lot.
has to have to do his job. I got enough work. I don't want to hang around when someone's doing this.
I have a question. The town tools identified as town tools so that we, if something happens to him,
Right. As Karen said, she has an inventory.
Karen has a list.
Seems like a lot of eggs in one basket.
but the tools that they belong to the town, I would think should be taped or something would be identified.
Actually, an air scribe would be the best thing.
Yeah,
That would be
that'd
right,
be
and
great.
even a snap-on.
Right, and I, initially, when we first bought the stuff, he dipped all the handles in green paint, and we did that with all the stuff that we bought for the cemetery as well, because when we were doing the cemetery repairs, some people were bringing their own tools. So we did, that was back when we first started. Since that point, as brooms, rakes, things like that have been replaced, I think that practice kind of fell by the wayside, because it was like taking the paint and do it all at once.
Right, yeah.
But it's been close to 10 years of, 7 years of using them.
Part of the nightmare we have too is because we have this position and he's a multi-department position, if we go back to the bad old days of the cemetery doing everything itself, the rec committee doing everything itself, the town not doing anything.
Everything was contracted.
Yes, it was a nightmare. So I understand your concern, but I don't think it's that level of a problem. So I don't think there's anything we really need to work on here.
Do we need to change the code of the ethics policy? Because it does state it right here.
Well, again,
I mean, I don't understand. To include the use of town property for personal use. No matter what he's bringing to the table to give to the town, to donate his time, to donate his mower if we need one, is above and beyond, and it doesn't matter because this is the ethics policy.
But Chester, that includes all the cell phones that the town pays for, all our computers, everything. We're all going to be shut off on everything. So if we want to look up something, to check on something on, say, our email during lunchtime, we can't do it.
No, that is a separate computer policy that says that you can use it.
But it's still town
minimum.
property.
And
It's
it's still the
town-
ethics.
It's still the ethics.
Right.
Ethically, it's wrong,
I
according
just
to
think
that.
it's opening.
How far are you
Pandora's
gonna
box,
go?
and you don't need to open it right now. And I understand where you're coming from with the policy, Chester, but, rules and regulations are made and are written down, but there are judges and juries that are set in place because if we went right by rules and regulations and everything else, right by the letter of the law, they don't need us sitting up here. All they need is a computer. You don't need a judge and a jury. All you need is a computer. Guilty or not guilty. And that's not the way life is. Life doesn't run that way. There are exceptions to every rule. And this, to me, would be an exception to that rule.
I think it's a core exception. I'll read this from BPW of Exeter. We take the position that the liability issues are too great. What if someone was injured depending on what they were doing, etc.? Not to mention, it doesn't pass the front page test, in my opinion. And it's a bad look above and beyond the ethics. It's a bad look. And townspeople do not like it. And I don't think I should have to bring them in here. They bring it to my attention, and I'll bring it to the board's attention.
And rightfully so.
Could I make a suggestion? Why don't you have a waiver and have Paul sign a waiver? He cannot bring any of his, equipment to be fixed. That would end it. If he has to fix his lawnmower, he'll have to take his tools home and fix it at his house.
Or a waiver of
Or a waiver of
liability.
liability or
while
something, or while he's doing it here, a waiver of
Why
liability.
can't the tools go back the other way? And you can work on them at his house. I mean, that's
It's his tools.
right. So that's what toolboxes are for. You bring home the tools you need. I
don't know,
agree with
how
what
many
you're saying.
times, Chester,
I
has
agree.
he, how many times has he actually, that you've seen him doing his own equipment there? That you can honestly say?
Half a dozen?
half a dozen. And how would you know that? Are you watching him all the time?
Well, I'm out walking my dog early in the morning when it's happening, so yes.
So, I mean,
I keep an eye on it, yeah, I do.
that's what I'm asking you.
I do. I mean, a lot of people in the town are up early driving around.
Yeah, they are definitely.
They are, and
They are.
it's a visible position, the doors are open, and it's,
Well, you need
Yeah,
to,
I mean,
you guys gotta figure it
if
out.
the whole town,
Just a suggestion.
I know I've been on 2 years now, I've never had a single person say anything about him using his tools.
I've been on 7 years, I've never had anybody say that to me. And I used to get, believe me, I get complaints from things going on in the town, but I've never had anybody say anything to me about that either. You've been on 6 months, and all of a sudden you got,
I do.
you know, but anyway.
What are you trying to say?
Personally, what I'm trying to say is we do one of two things. Either we say, Paul, you can't come down and fix your equipment. And if we do that, then we need to provide, this town's going to spend money on tools. Because he's going to take his tools back out there.
Well, if you want to have a DPW, you got to spend money.
I don't think this is the time to do it. That's where I'm coming from.
We don't have the budget.
And that would have to go.
So if he quits tomorrow and the new guy doesn't have any tools, we're going to have to spend the money. I mean,
Yeah. I'm just telling you where I'm coming
no,
from.
I respect your opinion.
So as far as I'm concerned, as long as Paul's using his tools, when he needs to bring his lawnmower down to get fixed, it's all right with me. I don't have a problem with it. But that's my opinion.
I mean,
Or
if he was
otherwise.
Yeah, if he was using the town tools, I think that might be a different story.
Right.
But if
Well,
he's using
we need
it,
to know, I need to know what tools are what.
Right.
Because there you
well,
go.
that's right.
Can I
It
make
goes
one-
back to liability.
Can I make one suggestion? Talking with another town that, and it's not related to Public Works, but it's firemen that wash their own vehicles using town equipment. They're allowed to do it only in the back of the station that was not visible to the public, basically for that front page test. So if the board doesn't have a problem with him doing it, have the door closed.
And another thing we
With
could
the door
do
closed.
is have Paul sign, as you said, a waiver.
Waiver for
But the
liability.
waiver just says that the town
It's
is
his
not held
responsibility.
liable
The town,
for
right.
anything that
But
happens to him.
the front page
on its own
test
time.
is a real concern all the time for any town. Have the door closed. Because that's how another town handled the firemen, and they actually were given hours. They couldn't wash them until after 5 p.m., and it had to be behind the station, so that it wasn't public, and these were people that they were doing it on their paid time, because they were, they were paid.
All right, so what I want to do is bring this
Not
to a
me.
culmination. Is the board all right with Paul bringing his equipment down on his own time, using his own tools on town property? They either are or they aren't, and if they're not, then we're going to have to spend money on getting new tools.
I don't have a problem with it myself.
I don't have a problem myself either. Chip?
I like the idea of the front door being shut.
Yeah,
Well, that's
Yes.
fine. Yeah, but all right.
Yeah, that's the bitching down the minimum.
All right. Paul?
No problem.
Chester?
I have a problem with it.
Okay.
I have a problem with the door shut too. I mean, so some transparency. The more shut doors, the more. But I don't know. It seems
Okay.
like we're just hiding the problem.
Right.
If everybody sees it, we can complain. That's
I
what I read
would
of
expect
it.
that it would be incidental use.
Is there any
It
liability?
doesn't. It doesn't.
And it's on his own personal equipment, he's not like being paid to bring other people, he's not really doing a repair shop on the side.
All right.
How often do you need to fix your lawnmower?
Chester was just asking, is there any potential of liability if he were to have something like burning the building down?
Yes.
And the answer is yes, but that's what insurance is for.
Okay.
You see, to me, if I go...
It would be covered though.
His lawnmower would not be covered. If he was working on his piece of equipment and he hit a wrong wire or something and his piece of equipment burned, It's not covered.
But the
The
building.
building would be covered,
Right.
but his piece of equipment is not insured by the town.
That's right. That's his own.
Now, Paul, in your opinion, should we have him sign a waiver saying that if he's working on his own time, on his equipment, using his tools,
Right.
that
If
he's
he's hurt,
not-
it's not workers' comp.
That's all.
I think that would be a reasonable compromise here.
Okay.
And I just want to note too, when we take a look at policies from other places, you know, Greenland with one building and one person
Right.
is not Exeter. Exeter has, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 public works employees. And so they have to have a much more detailed and a much more restrictive policy than we have to have.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
I think you
that's
start the
okay.
policy correct from the get-go and you use that.
If everything
As a
is,
policy.
if everything were as black and white as that, then
I wouldn't have
none
a
of,
job.
well, no, but I mean, none of our employees could use a town computer to look up a personal issue. They couldn't make a personal phone call, and that's just not how the world works.
Right. Those policies were written and approved by the board a couple of years ago, that incidental use, and it can't obstruct any of your work time.
And this is why we have supervision, and this is why we're looking at everything with checks and balances. I think there's a reasonable accommodation to make here.
All right, so let's work on a waiver for Paul to sign.
Okay.
He's working on his own tools. Okay.
Yeah, but he's not covered under workers' comp at that point, and we're not liable, the town is not liable for damage or theft of his equipment while on town property.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
And
no,
do you
that's
want it
something.
to say that the door is closed or not?
I don't want to micromanage it to that level.
I don't either.
Okay?
And again, I don't mind any member of the public knowing what he's doing or looking at this, and if they have questions, we will deal with that.
Right, it can be a suggestion to him. Don't be doing it on a Saturday morning while everyone's pulling out of the dump. And,
Why, that's
you
what
know,
my stuff
that's
is.
advertising it, and that's what creates,
The issue, yeah.
yeah.
Just use some discretion, that's all.
Okay? All right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, we all
I
agree
go
to
along with that.
disagree.
We're
We're
moving
right
it along.
along.
We're moving it.
All right.
That's all right.
Okay, good. All right, under new business. We have the town administrator's report. I would like to bring up the streetlight issue that you mentioned.
Okay, yep, I've been working with, it started by discussing lots of issues with Mike Joyle, who is the city manager in Dover. And he was excited because they had just finished their first phase of changing the old vapor lights like we have to LED streetlights. In the first few months, their bill dropped in half each month. And they're currently, they finished that project and now they're moving on to do their town properties and parks. So I talked to the company that they used, which is Affinity. And so Affinity, I authorized the release of our streetlight ledger from Eversource to Affinity last week or 2 weeks ago at this point, to see if we would qualify for the program, one, and then if we would qualify, then I went to Eversource, which has grant funds available that helps offset the cost of these programs. Eversource money is all gone for 2017. They're allocating the 2018 money now, and they allocated to us, it didn't continue, $12,800, I believe, that they're reserving for us for 2018. And all I needed to do for them is to confirm that, yes, we are looking into the program, which I did, because I don't want them to give that money allocated to another town at this point. Affinity is willing to go forward with our replacement. They can schedule us in November, December, and not bill us until 2018 so that we can get the project done, and we would get the Eversource money to pay it. The total project is about $28,000. I had only put it into my weekly report because my intention had been, let's, put this into the 2018 budget process, let's see if it gets approved, etc. And that's where I am at this point. The payback on it, they did an analysis of our bills and the savings, and the $18,000 or $17,000 difference that would cost the town of Greenland we would be even at 2.2 years.
So your suggestion is to,
I think it's a fabulous idea.
Mhm.
The LED lights are much brighter. We tend to have, complaints from residents that, my bulb is out and I'm, once a month I'm faxing over a streetlight outage to Eversource for them to replace those older lights. This replaces the entire fixtures, everything.
these night sky compliant?
Yes, they are night sky compliant, which means that they shows down.
Yeah.
Yes, but they're LED, they last longer, the bulbs don't burn out, and it's a brighter white light rather than the yellowish light that we have.
And so your budget plan is what?
It's totally up to the board. I don't think that I can find the money in the 2017 budget. With all these other little things and the air conditioning and now the study, there are no extra funds for 17. Affinity will bill us in 18, and we'll get the Eversource money in 18. I think it's up to the board if we want to authorize it to go forward, which it's a risky situation whether we aggravate the budget committee if we've done it before their approval.
Well, I tell you my thought is we put it in and we budget it as part of our road maintenance budget. And this is just a project in road maintenance. It's a total 28,000 roughly.
28,000 with 12,800 being paid by Eversource.
Yeah.
We only
So-
pay the difference.
So that's only $16,000. And that's part of our regular ordinary road maintenance
Right,
budget.
and we would have that in this year's budget under the road maintenance. We have not paved, striped,
Anything yet.
And also, Paul,
we have contracted out these
$28,000
roads
with
are
a
gone.
2-year payback? I mean, that's a good investment.
Yes,
I
well,
mean,
what I'm
it
saying
really,
is,
from
And
here on in.
they're safer
money's
lights,
saved.
I'm just saying, I would be very happy in front of the budget
Yeah.
committee to advocate that. I'm not looking for a warrant article here. I'm looking to put this in my ordinary road maintenance budget.
Okay,
Yeah, and so I have no problem if you want to do it in 18 because of a lack of funds right now. Plus, we don't get the Eversource payback on the project.
right. Affinity said that they would bill us our share, and they would bill Eversource their share in 18. But they could do it in 17. If we want to move forward, we could do it in 17 with the road maintenance budget.
Okay.
Because we're getting late in the season to do any kind of striping.
Mhm.
And I don't know what, Willowbrook and the engineering things are taking so long that
Well, I don't mind.
I don't know if either of those projects will push into 18.
I
We
don't
have
mind
the
giving you
funds.
2 more weeks to look at the budgetary impact and come back with a better report of how you would do it.
Okay,
And if we made our decision in 2 weeks, that's fine, right?
Okay,
but the board is supportive of switching to the LED lights?
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I-
Yeah, to me, it's road maintenance.
okay.
I was pleased when Eversource said, yep, we'll get you first in the list for the 18 money.
Okay. And I think what we're probably going to tell you in 2 weeks is if you can find a way to get the agreement such that we don't lose the Eversource money, I'd much rather pay 16 to 28.
Right, oh, absolutely.
That's all. You know, that we find that the source of our funds to be road maintenance.
Okay. All right, I'll talk with them tomorrow.
Go back to the road maintenance, when they come back in 2018. Would replace
What he's asking is when Eversource pays the money back in, does that go back into road maintenance?
No, it does not. Eversource will pay Affinity direct. If Affinity knows that Eversource will guarantee our 12.8 of the total project, Affinity will bill us our share and they will bill Eversource direct their share. So that way we don't even have to gross appropriate it.
We would just get a net bill of around 16.
Correct.
So that's even better.
Oh, it's definitely the best way to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, good.
So I'd say take the 2 weeks and get
And see if
that.
we can pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then certainly I think we authorize that.
okay.
All right? Intent to cut.
We intend to cut. This is for 125 Ocean Road. The property is the site of the new storage building, the Bluebird Storage. It's the old Pepsi plant. And they're going to cut approximately 1 acre. It is not in current use and it does qualify for the cut. This is their notice of intent to cut for the board to sign on the bottom. And once it's signed, I send it to the Department of Revenue and we will then get a report of cut from the logger and assess the yield tax, which is going to be extremely minimum.
Anybody have any questions on that?
And the signature-
Entertain a motion?
One, so everybody has signed.
I move to sign the intent to cut and send it to the Department of Revenue.
Do you have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, that's going around the signature.
Veterans credit.
This is a Veterans Credit application for a new resident that qualifies on, he's new to Greenland, he's on Boxwood Path, but he has been a New Hampshire resident for the 1 year prior. And he has served, it's a regular veterans, not the all veterans credit. And it's effective for the 2018 tax year because it is after April 1st.
Any questions? No motion?
I move to approve the Veterans Credit for Andre Thoreau, 89 Boxwood Path.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
And on a side note for the veterans credits, I was working on the draft MS1 today, and when we estimated the original tax rate, I based it on assuming we'd have about 130,000 in veterans credits. Normally we have 112. I estimated the 130 based on the new all veterans credit. With changes of people leaving, moving, and the new veterans credits, it'll actually come in at 120,500.
Okay, so very close.
Yeah, so we planned for it high, so we're good.
Okay, real estate tax liens.
Okay, this is the annual list forwarded by the tax collector for the 2016 unpaid taxes that have now come to lien. The total amount of liens is $87,603.91. Due to the diligence of the tax collector, we have an excellent tax collection rate. Our amount of liens is so low compared to most places. And at this point, I put there no property scheduled to be deeded. That's what I was understanding, but there is one property scheduled to be deeded that'll be at the next meeting.
And there's two people that have paid on that, those liens, two have already paid
Okay.
in the last week.
I did notice, Marge, that the estate of James Hessian, care of Ruth Murphy.
Yeah.
You're aware that Ruth has passed away?
Yes, I have. I contacted her daughter, Jim. I sent them a letter, and I haven't heard back. If you have any other further information, let me know about her family, because I sent it out 2 weeks ago. And
There's a brother and a sister.
Yeah, I know
there's a daughter.
Yeah, there's a boy and a girl. I sent it to the daughter, but I have not heard.
Well, I would say well done on the collections, tax collector, but I think that'd be a conflict of interest. So I'll let you-
I already counted it back.
On 12 million, that's not bad.
No, even the auditors, normally towns hold $30,000 as a liability for uncollected taxes. And we had been holding $20,000 as like the number. And at this year's audit, Jay Plodzik said, let's reduce that to 10. You're going to collect what you've got.
People are pretty good. I mean, they really are. They respond.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to acknowledge the receipt.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the receipt.
Second.
Of the tax collector's execution of liens. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Weight limit sign.
Okay, this was a request by Mr. Hussey, Selectman Hussey, to put this on the agenda. Looking at establishing a weight limit on Willowbrook Avenue. What I've attached for the board is the specific process that would need to be followed to establish a weight limit for the road. And because it extends into Stratham, it's a two-town road, anything that would be done would have to be coordinated with Stratham as well. It's not easy just to establish a weight limit for any particular road. There has to be a valid, provable reason. And that's why most of the time you see weight limits are only on the seasonal for frost.
Okay, Chip?
And since Mr. Sanderson basically wrote the book that I'm referencing in here, he will have more information for you.
Comment, Chip?
What the problem was, and I thought we were gonna be redoing Willowbrook this year, but it doesn't look like it's gonna.
I have no idea at this point.
Because there's this housing development going on east of the Stratum end of Willowbrook.
Yeah.
So my thing was, if we redid that road, I would want to be able to not have trucks be driving on it.
Right. And to follow up on that, when I first saw the legal notice for Stratum that they were going to have a project on coming off Willowbrook, I sent a letter on behalf of the board to the Stratum Planning Board, acknowledging the fact that we would be rebuilding Willowbrook Ave and may or may not, depending on the timing, require a road bond from the developer for any damage done to our road. And they did put that into their record for that development.
And Stratum apparently is repaving Willowbrook itself.
Yes, but they are only doing, I talked with them, and I forwarded all that information to Paul. They are only doing right now is a half-inch shim coat. Basically for the same concern we had. They didn't want their new road torn up with the development either.
Yeah.
But their end of the road is, they said it needs to be done. So they're doing a half-inch shim coat through Bell and Flynn, and I've given the number to Paul to coordinate whether or not that's something because our end is in terrible shape as well.
Yes.
Whether or not that's something we want to do if we're going to be another year for construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the outcome of that has been yet.
Just one thing, because we have a resident here who lives in that area.
Yes.
And I would
There's two
like
of
to
them.
hear,
Sure, my neighbor.
good,
Yeah.
I would like to hear some comments from you.
Well, one question we have is that little bridge going to be widened at all as part of this
Unlikely.
repaving? Yeah, so it's going to stay there. No. Will any of the trees along Willowbrook be removed?
Likely.
Likely. She would be having, it's a very dangerous road with the trees and shrubbery that
But if you
encroach
take
on it.
those trees down, you might as well put Welcome to Indianapolis 500 because they go 45 miles an hour on that sucker as it is. You've gone across the bridge when there's been a big truck, and the truck's weight limits won't do a single thing for that because they won't pay any attention to it. They don't. Big
Yeah.
trucks come down it now, and there's no, the development is.
A weight limit there would be illegal. You're within 2 miles of a national network highway. For the same reason that they can't close Ocean Road, you can't close that. Yeah. So,
That road is
No,
driven
Route
like
95
a
is
single
the
lane road
key.
anyway.
Yeah, but you can't go
Actually,
on Horse
33.
Ave either. That is
Right,
why
but it's because of
Yeah,
95.
you come around
33.
that corner.
in 32. The road is terrible. It's falling apart.
Where is that road on the assessments?
One.
It's
assessment?
supposed to be done this year.
It's what?
That's number one.
This year.
Number one.
Okay,
It's number one.
okay.
The problem that's
we're trying to get our
there
engineering.
that is going to be, you're counting the good gods, if you will. That culvert's going to go one of these days. Vehicles get heavier, that culvert gets older and washed away. We're lucky that it's only been moderate rain at that time. If we have a gully washer, that's in that last Mother's Day or whatever day storm that everybody got, it started to dig out. You can get an idea because when those guardrails were originally put in, those guardrails were straight up. If you look at them now, they're like this. And whoever's going to work in there, hopefully they're not allergic to poison ivy because it's covered down in there. But you can see it from all around the guardrails. But if people don't realize how deep that is, that's 8 feet deep down. If you go off and hit that guardrail and go down, nobody would know you were down there except for the guardrail being down.
I guess my only concern was the redoing the roads and then having them tear them up.
Yeah.
So if we get,
I
if
agree.
we did actually
If you
put the
could do it,
bond in
yeah.
the decision, then
If you could do it, and it would make a difference. On the trees, only reason I say don't is, I realize you're gonna probably have to trim them back, but if you cut them down It'll, the new paving and the road with the trees down, it'll also ruin the ambiance of the road. The road's a nice covered road.
Yeah.
You know, that can be discussed during design meetings.
As soon as you get into the base, you're going to kill the roots, and they will die.
Yeah. There's a couple that probably are
I
anyway.
think the preliminary engineering did have some tree removal estimated.
Couple of them will be fine, but there's some beautiful, big, beautiful old trees there that have been hit several times and still will survive. God knows
There you
why.
go.
Well, obviously the ones that need to go.
Well,
They're in the
there's
way.
a nice little apple tree that was right in the middle of nowhere and shouldn't have been hit, but it was hit a long time ago. So you can't go by that, but the road is very bad.
Yeah, and we are waiting for our preliminary engineering back.
Yeah, it's DES from what Paul said.
Karen, just thinking about the redoing of the road, though, did they tell you how many homes are supposed to be going in this development in Stratham?
No, I didn't ask.
Okay, I just wondered, in terms of the impact of construction traffic.
6 to 8, and they're going to be manufactured.
Okay, it's not quite like the
Right.
extended construction that like Van Avenue.
Right, but because it's in Stratham, we don't have control over their
No, I
planning
just
process.
wondered.
I just wanted to make sure that they were aware that we were going to be redoing the road.
Exactly.
And that, depending on timing, we would like to be on record that we would notify a,
If the
Yeah,
dip that they did to blend in that shim coat on the Stratham end, where it's closest to Willowbrook, well, on either end, is any indication of the road underneath it, it's gotta be that deep. Because the far end near the Gove, new house, it's right near the end of Willowbrook, in Stratham, is probably 5 or 6 inches deep, and it's still tar underneath. And the one closest to Greenland on Willowbrook is probably 4 inches deep, and there's still tar underneath. So those roads have been paved a lot without ever being redone. It'll be interesting if we go down to grade what will happen at the joint of those where it goes into Stratham.
Okay.
Travel.
All right, so the weight limit thing is,
Pretty much dead.
yeah.
How's that for a description?
Right.
I didn't know that you weren't aware that we had put Stratham on notice.
No, I haven't gotten anything on that at all.
Right, I put it in a weekly report, but that's happened probably 4 months ago.
That's why, they should be starting, then again, we were supposed to be starting shortly.
I
So as long as they put it in first, I don't care.
Exactly,
They can rip up the road and save some money on ripping it up ourselves.
okay.
Okay, let's discuss National Night Out.
Okay, this is just an announcement that National Night Out will be Tuesday, August 1st from 5 to 8. It generally takes place in the fire station in Mount Mat. It's a cookout. Sponsorship is usually from Target, and Dee Dee Cook has helped in the past. And there'll be music, and every year we get a bigger and bigger turnout.
Do we need a motion for this?
No, this was just an FYI.
Any questions about National Night Out? If you can make it, come on down.
Yeah. I have 2 additional new business items, though.
Yeah, Karen does have a couple of items to discuss. The MD&A in audit.
The audit representation letter. Part of the audit, I'm required to review the financial statements that they provide and then create the document that I sent out to you, the management's discussion and analysis. It sums up the audit in a 5-page document, much easier to read than 15 pages of tables and financial reports. So that's this. It explains the undesignated fund balance, what the change in the tax rate. So if anyone has any questions on the MD&A, this is prepared by me and submitted by me.
Did we get any observations or significant findings?
Yes, we did. Nothing of major concern. One is the trustees of the trust fund. They have been unable to produce a bank certification from one of their bank accounts. Basically because they require that it be done electronically, the auditors don't want something electronically, TD Bank and the auditors, and Colleen's been trying to work with them to like smooth that out.
Okay.
But I believe that's about resolved. And the other one was with the fire department. The ambulance billing and reconciliations, the fire department has not been supplying to us their write-offs in a timely fashion.
Okay.
So that holds up the reconciliation of it with us and with Comstar that does the billing. It was a transition issue when the current EMS officer that handles it didn't understand that when he got those emails from Comstar that those were the statements and the request for write-offs that he needed to print out, review,
Through the accounting system.
and process them. So several months weren't done until the auditors were here and they're asking about it, and he didn't understand it, and we were able to get all the documents and do it all at once. So that's the write-up, that they need a better write-off policy and procedures to manage those. But that's all.
I had a couple of questions. One was the $8,000 over expenditure by the Public Works Sanitation Department.
Yeah, and that's in the MD&A, and that was the result of staffing issues. In 2016, the selectmen authorized an additional person for Saturdays at the transfer station, which was unbudgeted. And we also had one employee out on illness that for an extended length of time on sick leave that we replaced. And so that was the impact. The part-time salaries were just under budgeted because we didn't expect those problems.
And the other one was under long-term obligations concerning pension liability of $2,700,000, which Carolyn explained.
Yeah, that is, it's a new accounting thing that started, this is the second year for it, that the Government Accounting Standards Board requires towns to show their pension liability, whether or not it's a pension that they own or just participate in. The town is a member of New Hampshire Retirement System, and so our liability for people that have been paying in and haven't retired yet, based on estimated lifetime, etc., is $2,740,000.
That's in case the state goes bankrupt and we're responsible.
If something happened to the New Hampshire Retirement System, we have employees that have paid that money in over many years. And technically it's a town liability, but it just shows on the books it's not really a liability. The other number in there is $77,541. That is the long-term obligation based on compensated absences. That is the total amount of unused sick and vacation leave on the books based on the policy of payout. If you leave the town of Hampton Greenland employed, you get, I haven't worked there for 15 years. You only get 10 days worth of unused vacation time, and you get a maximum of 240 hours of sick leave. So this is based on those 10 days and the 240 hours for employees that have accrued that much, based on their current wages, and we have to book that as an unfunded liability as well. So that's $77,000.
Okay, and the only other item was, because I know we all got this on our phones, was item 31 on the letter to P&S. I can't. Sanderson, I can pronounce that.
Yeah.
It looked on your phones like it was an incomplete sentence, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Item 31 is that the financial statements properly classify all funds and activities in accordance with GASB statement number 34. And what that is everything has to be designated, whether it's restricted, non-restricted, spendable. If it's part of a special revenue, it's on a special fund. And then we have our general fund, and then there's other statements that are all government. They have to take all of those capital reserve funds, special revenue funds, and lump them all together and say this is the total Greenland, this is Greenland's general fund.
Okay, good. So, and any other questions? Anybody have any questions on that? No.
All right, so I do need a motion for the chairman to sign the MD&A.
Yep.
I mean, not the MD&A,
No.
the representation letter to Plotting and Sanderson.
Move that we authorize the chairman to sign the representation letter to Plotzik and Sanderson regarding the audit.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, Bonnie, you just need to sign. And the other item I have is, and I outlined it in the email to all of you, we currently are out for RFP for our recycling services. Not the transportation, but the actual processing of the recyclables. I sent out the RFPs, and our current contract is a zero base, that we do not get any revenue for recycled materials, nor do we pay anything for recyclable materials. It was a 3-year contract that turned out for us being fabulous because the market for recyclables dropped. Towns were paying more to get rid of their recycled material than they were to get rid of their trash. We were very fortunate with that contract. When I sent out the RFP, I got a call on Friday afternoon because I'd already sent out the board's report from EcoMaine, from Lissa Bitterman, who's our representative there, saying that their contract carried the next paragraph in their contract where they had the pricing at zero in the terms. The next paragraph allowed for automatic rollover of 3 years at the same terms, should both parties agree. She checked with the president of EcoMaine, who said, yes, you can extend that rollover to Greenland for the 3 years at zero. If you go to RFP, they're not offering that to any other towns anymore. That's off the table. So if they have to submit through an RFP, they will not be submitting the zero. They will be submitting similar to what all the other towns will be, which is they call it the pink sheet, Pink Sheet Plus. And so the pink sheet is what recyclables are selling for on the market at that particular day that your materials go in. And it'll be like a plus 2%, minus 2%. So if it sells for higher than 2% of that pink sheet, the town gets that extra revenue. If it sells less than 2% of that pink sheet, the town pays the difference, which is the kind of contract we were in prior to the past 3 years. So it's totally up to the board.
And this has been run by Paul, and Paul.
Yes, I reviewed it with the property maintenance supervisor because he is in charge of the transfer station. His recommendation was similar to mine, is that we accept the rollover from EcoMaine and stay zero for 3 years. We will definitely make out for at least the next year and a half. The market is increasing. The prices are coming up, but they're not at a pay level. They could be 2 years from now, and who knows, paper may become very valuable, and we'll kick ourselves. My gamble is that we'll be pleased to be zero for the next 3 years. Totally up to you guys.
And I agree. I agree with Karen on that too. I think that's playing it safe and wise too.
And we have been so fortunate. We saved a ton of money.
And then what we should be doing is also working with residents to increase recycling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody?
And Lissa had actually said she would schedule a fall visit back down with materials again. They are now doing food compost recycling too, which I'm not sure I want to get into up at that site because we already have
Rat breeding.
road things. So that didn't excite me, but they came down when we first went with EcoMaine and brought stacks of recycling bins and handed them out to residents. They're willing to do that again and set up a booth and, do a propaganda day. Education day.
Yeah.
Education day.
So I'll entertain a motion
use
to
that other word.
authorize the town administrator to roll over the EcoMaine contract.
And withdraw the current RFP.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That was like the best news I got on Friday afternoon. Yes!
All right. Is there any other business that anybody would like to bring up before
Yes.
we get to next? Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to give an update on the library. And since we have the chairman of the trustees, perhaps you could inform the board of what you folks have been doing in the sense of your...
Well, we're working on our story. We really are working on our story in order to get it out effectively to the community. I wish we could get people to come into the library and see where we really are with our very small space and trying to do the best that we can with the small space we have. That said, the building committee is in full swing meeting with the architect, and as of, I think it was today or yesterday, I'm not sure, today, we were sent out the most up-to-date building plans that the architect and building committee have agreed upon. We are getting ready to meet with the church council. In August, we're going to have the architect there to present as well. One of the concerns that the school board voiced at our meeting with them earlier in the summer was access from the parking area that is proposed to go behind the SAU building during the time when buses are lined up. We are looking at an agreement to perhaps create an open space of access directly into the U-shaped turnaround that goes between the church parish hall and the library. Don't know how that's going to go and exactly what's required in that. I can update you on that one.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are right now. The fundraising committee is struggling to get started, I think, but I went to a great presentation at our annual library trustees meeting on the ask, and I'm really encouraging them to get together and start thinking about how we start our fundraising before we start with a warrant.
Good.
I would just add into their septic consideration. You know, in other words, as the design goes forward, since you're covering virtually the entire lot, and the septic system there in existence probably would have to be abandoned as part of the construction process, making sure you have a septic disposal area that's going to be adequate for the size of the use.
Right.
And I think that means school property, doesn't it?
That, I'm not sure. I would have to check with our architect at this point. He is aware of that
I think that's an
concern.
important detail.
Right, and
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, when the church put in their new septic, which extended part into that driveway, they sized it appropriately for an expanded library.
Yes, they did.
It's just that, isn't the expanded library going to go on top of where that is?
No, that's not going to take. If you're looking at the driveway between the church, parish hall, and the library, it's actually sits right next to the driveway forward of the existing building.
Okay.
And we're not touching any of that area next to the building, the old building.
Okay, but we're talking about something that might house 100 people at a time.
Yes.
Yeah. In front and back.
But do trust us that the architect is aware of that. I will find out about that for
Well,
you.
I do. I'm just saying that that's going to be a key point that people will raise.
Right.
And so that's something that an engineer will have to certify that it's okay.
Right. I'm making a note of that.
Okay. Because that would be an unmitigated disaster as a failed septic system.
Oh, well, we already felt that way, unfortunately, when the church had to install their repair on our property, but, it's worked out. It's worked out.
Okay.
Any other?
Thank you for the update.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other business?
No, sir.
I just got a couple reminders because it hasn't happened. And a question, phone system, how you doing with that?
Excellent. The engineering part has been done on it. Right now, we're just having a little bit of a hiccup. Bayring transferred their ownership to a new company called Freedom Ring. So Freedom Ring, we need to get Bayring, what we needed was Bayring to release our lines so that they could be ported over to Comcast. The particular lines that we're moving, which is 3 of them, because we're keeping our Bayring or now Freedom Ring lines for the fax machines, because the price is just, we don't use it enough to worry about. But Bayring's transition to Freedom Ring, I haven't been able to get Freedom Ring to release our lines to Comcast. They have a hold on all their new lines that they just acquired. So there's we're stuck in a transition limbo right now. But as soon as I can get those ported over, then we're ready to go. The Comcast hired a company that did the, thank you for calling the town of Greenland as a professional script. It was included for free. So we basically took very similar to what we have, other than everybody's individual, which they'll be able to set their own. You've reached Marge, you've reached Karen. They will do that on their own to say what they want to say. It is going to have an extra line, an extra option. Right now, it's like press 1 for this person, and it ends once you've reached those people. The next one says, if you want to hear it again, start over. This one will have one more that press 7 for our current hours and any news or information. And so that's where we're going to be able to change that on a daily basis if we wanted to. The concert is now canceled. So if people are hearing that, they'll hear press 7 for any updated information. Hopefully that's where they look for the announcements about Hazardous Waste Day, or, the phone starts ringing at noontime on concert day if it's cloudy. Not even if it's raining, but if it's cloudy, they start calling. And 100?
Yeah, at least.
So if that can be a place on there for announcements, then they can hear it. We will all be very happy.
Yes. Okay, good.
But yeah, no, it's coming along. The phones are ordered. Training has been sent out. They have like videos for all the training that's been sent out to the staff with recommendation, watch this video. And there's like documents. The phones are almost just like what we currently have.
Yeah.
So the transition to the new phones isn't going to be hard. So as soon as I can get Freedom Ring, that's not even in Portsmouth anymore, we'll get that figured out.
And the next question was the IT guy we're going to meet with. Has that been scheduled up yet?
He is really busy right now during the summertime, but he knows he's going to with his schedule and try to fit in with our schedules. We'll get him in.
Again, before budget season hits.
Okay.
I know July and August is tough.
Yeah, I thought it was to talk about our security.
It is, but it
Okay.
would also be a good thing, if you need us to buy anything, you gotta let us know.
Oh, all right, okay. Okay.
I did write security down, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay.
That's it? Anybody else? Okay, manifests.
We approve the attached manifest of unpaid bill detail as of July 27, 2017, in the amount of $435. This is for the police special revenue fund for
Car
seat
equipment.
covers.
Yeah.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I move we approve the attached payroll number 15, pay date July 27, 2017, period July 10, 2017 through and including July 23, 2017. Amount excluding payroll liabilities of $56,745.52.
Second?
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh, you gave me the big one, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a big one. It's a really big one. It's big.
Move to approve the attached manifest of unpaid bills detailed as of July 27, 2017, in the amount of $585,114.27.
Of that, 500,000 is to the school.
Second. Second? Do I have a second?
Yes.
Oh, okay, it's not in here. I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good, we're out of here.
25.
Karen, this wasn't a million like last year. The school.
Oh, that was.
Thank
That
you,
was
Joe. Already happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
already withdrawn.
That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.